I'm in search of conversation guests. If you are interested or know someone that might be interested, please contact me directly. Thank you. All right, let's get started. What's up? Not high this time.
Round two.
Not high this time, round two.
I'm in this little bit, not high like last time.
So the last time we went through the online questions, I want to go through all of them today, but as I rewatched the first one, it was obvious that we were too stoned.
Yeah.
Now, that's almost funny for people like, say, some of the online questions had a almost a negative connotation in their questioning. Right. If they watch that first one, it's almost as if it almost adds to their fear of cannabis.
Yeah, right. It's kind of going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I
don't feel like we represented ourselves in the best light. Just
totally agreed.
Just because we got too high, like.
Yeah.
I was telling you before, I think our mistake was just getting higher, like right before we did it.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe if we smoked earlier and chilled for a bit.
Waited for an hour or two.
Right. But like we got blazed up and then, all right, let's go do this conversation. And we were both just kind of, woo.
I think even on top of that probably the weed itself was too strong for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a lightweight.
Me too.
I remember about, I want to say 2 years ago, a buddy of mine had just a joint, but it seemed whatever it was super light, where I smoked a couple puffs and we went out. It was freaking fun. We hit up like a buffet. We went to a restaurant after the buffet.
Right. Back when buffets were still open.
Yeah. That was awesome. It was just a light high throughout the whole night, and it was fun, really fun.
I think that's what turns people off sometimes when they try it the first time and they just get too high and it's like, oh, that wasn't fun. That was too much for me.
I totally agree with that. I think my very first try of marijuana was when I was 16 or 17. It was the strangest thing. It almost felt like, and I've actually read this online afterwards because I thought I was an idiot or something. It almost felt like it lasted for 3 or 4 days, which sounds absolutely crazy, I guess, for people that don't understand it or don't know about it. Even I would imagine for smokers that it's been so long since their very first time, they may not remember what their first time was really like.
Yeah.
But I got like a sleepy high, and it felt. I remember going to work the next 2, 3, 4 days, and it almost felt like it was lasted that whole time. I don't know what that means. I don't know if the body is just saying, "Hey, this is the first time experiencing this, so it's gonna the whole experience is prolonged."
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it definitely stays in your system for a while, but
I get the almost every single time when I get high. They call it shutter effect, or I call it film frames, which shutter effect's probably easier to understand maybe. Like as if I'm moving my hand, the vision when I'm high is I see this, I see here, and then I see this. I don't see the hand move across.
Right. Yeah, I've experienced that.
Mentally, I know my hand's going that way, but it just sees dun.
Snapshots?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I read on Reddit, someone said, "Oh, that was so awesome! I want to experience again." I tried to smoke that same stuff that I smoked last time, and it didn't re-happen. And then they said it was awesome. To me, that's another factor I think with marijuana where people experience it as awesome. I think that's a topic in itself. How it affects people differently. To me, I feel marijuana, it does make me love people more during the time.
Right.
It makes me paranoid, but I think that's normal. But I don't know. I feel that when other people talk about marijuana, they're much more enthusiastic than I am.
Yeah, definitely people have different experiences. I was going to mention when you said it felt like it lasted 3 or 4 days. I know you have issues with paranoia. Maybe that could be a slight part of it, just like you're telling yourself, oh man, I'm still high. I think I might still be high. It's fucking 3 days. Why am I still why hasn't this stopped? Why hasn't this gone away yet? But that was just an idea. I don't know if that has any validity. And for sure, different people have different experiences. I think the first time I smoked, I didn't really feel like I got that high. I definitely got the munchies the first time I smoked. My buddies had snacks prepared, and I pretty much ran through all their snacks. I was like, I'm not high. You guys sit over there and listen to your Pink Floyd. I'm with these chips over here. I'll be all right. So my first experience was, and I'm sure I did get high. I think I was in denial. I had waited so long to try it. I think I told you last time. My friends, I had a core group of like 3 or 4 buddies they had just gotten into it. They were smoking, and they were cool. They never pressured me. They were just, hey, this stuff is great. You should try it. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So I held off for so long that I think when I finally did try it, I kind of wanted to. I feel like I was above it. Like, nah, that didn't even get me high. This stuff is, you guys are crazy. And then meanwhile, I ate fucking 6 bags of chips and 8 cupcakes. And, you know what I mean? So I definitely had the munchies my first time. That was undeniable. And then subsequent times I for sure got high. I remember just laying back, listening to music, and it was
Between the first, second, and third time, do you remember how much time elapsed? Like,
I don't remember for sure, but it couldn't have been that long. Maybe a week at the most. It seemed like it was probably something we did on the weekends.
I think the first time I tried it was when I was 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the second time I tried it was when I was 30.
That can't be, because we smoked together one time.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Okay, I'm glad you're here to put me straight. So,
I think I was about 19 or 20, which would have put you about.
And now that you say that, I think I might have smoked once before that. So I probably smoked 3 times in between the ages of probably 16 and 19. Because if you were 19, I was probably
17.
Yeah. So between 16 and 17, I probably smoked 3 times total.
Uh-huh.
That might have been the last time until I was 35 years old.
Man.
I might be wrong, but if I did smoke between 17 and 35, it would have been 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, single exposures here.
So I think that's an interesting, at least from a perspective someone's afraid of, is it addictive? Now, you could say where marijuana affects different people differently. So maybe I'm on the lower spectrum,
Right.
But I think that's a common trait. If you talk to most stoners, they wouldn't say that it's addictive. I'm sure they would say that it's a lot of fun and it's a part of their daily routine, but it's not addictive. I think and you could speak from a nicotine perspective.
Certainly compared to nicotine, it's not even close. I can tell you I've cut back a lot, but I used to be what I would consider a hardcore stoner. Every day, large volumes for long periods of time. I don't believe there's any physical addiction to it, but I think there can be like a mental addiction, because there was a long period of time where it was really a priority to me. You know what I mean? To make sure I would live paycheck to paycheck, and I would get paid on Friday, and really the first thing I would want to do is go make sure I had enough weed to get me through to the next paycheck. You know what I mean? So I think there was a bit of a mental addiction where it was like, well, I just got to have it. It was for me, it was a priority. It was a way of life. It's like, I need to have food for this week. I got to have my weed. Make sure I have enough gas. You know what I mean? I put it in my list of things I need to have for the week.
Reflecting back on it, did it feel like a priority in your life or an addiction? Meaning, I think of a priority as something that you're going to put that effort in to get it into your life, but
Right.
An addiction is detrimental. Would you have done bad things?
Yeah, it wasn't to the point where like I would be concerned about like, oh man, I'm getting low on weed, and then if I actually ran out of weed and I had 3 days to go till payday, okay, that sucks. But no, I'm not going to beg for money or rob a liquor store so I can go get some weed. It was never even a consideration.
I've heard a friend say cocaine heroin and cocaine, if someone's on cocaine, they'll put in the hard work to get money. They'll do whatever it takes to get some cocaine, whereas heroin's a different beast where they said the addiction is supposedly stronger, where they'll steal or whatever they have to do to get money for heroin.
Right.
It was kind of funny when they said that to me because I had no idea. I didn't know there was a difference. I've never done cocaine or heroin.
Right.
So it was interesting to hear them say, yeah, cocaine addicts can be hard workers. Now, I think with cannabis,
work hard to get that cocaine.
yeah.
I think I know. I think it speaks to the nature of the drug too. Like you were saying, you feel like you more loving, more compassionate, and people who smoke pot all the time, I'm not gonna hurt someone so I can get money to have weed. Like it's counterproductive. You know what I mean? Most stoners and potheads, I'm not gonna say they're good people, but like it's like you said, when you smoke pot, most people, they have a feeling of kinship with your fellow man, and love everybody. I've never heard of someone wanting pot so bad that they went and fucking stole money or committed some kind of crime so they could get more pot.
Kind of connected with that, Minh asked,
I know that guy.
Who can you point out that's either a celebrity, somebody well known that uses?
That wasn't Minh, that was Emmett. I think that was Emmett asking about psychedelics.
Oh, sorry. That was a really loud. I don't think I've ever heard an airplane.
They're coming for us.
They know we're talking about this. Damn it, this paranoia.
We didn't even get high this time. We're hearing weird shit.
Okay, sorry. What were
You
you
guys
saying?
didn't hear that. There was some kind of plane or something that flew over.
No, they'll hear it.
He's not crazy.
It comes in pretty loud on the mic. That mic picks up everything. Like, oh, hear Emmett's car starting from the outside. Okay. What were you saying?
I think that was Emmett asking about psychedelics. Who can we point to?
Oh, was it Emmett? Okay.
Yeah. Minh was the one that had 40 questions in one giant paragraph.
Okay, who is the person?
Last time we left that Emmett's question for last because we were kind of started talking about cannabis and then we moved on to psychedelics later.
Okay. Who is someone that we could look up to and or see as a good example that they've been using, let's say cannabis and psychedelics. I don't know if we should break that up. I don't think people that, if someone does marijuana, they're probably not going to be heavily against psychedelics to some extent.
I don't think so. I mean,
they're not going to.
The only people who are against psychedelics are people who have no experience with it and people who had a bad experience with it. And I mean, the bad experience is I don't know how prevalent that is. You'll always find someone who said, "Oh, I had mushrooms and I didn't like it at all." But
I think the only good example we have is Joe Rogan. But the huge thing about Joe Rogan is he's living a life that he's able to say that he's done marijuana and or psychedelics. Meaning in our Schedule I society, people can't say it because in fear of losing their jobs.
Yeah, there's such a stigma that people, even people who have tried it, a lot of them don't want to admit it.
I think when we take it at freedom of speech, if you take a Schedule I drug and push it into your society that it is bad, you've created a fear of speech on the topic of cannabis. So I've actually thought so many times before doing this interview, I'm afraid to say that I do marijuana, which to some extent, I think in the last year, I've probably done it 3 times. So once every, it's so little, I think, that it shouldn't affect an employer. If an employer looks at me and says, hey, do you want, if you could be a programmer for our company, but, oh, you smoke marijuana, we don't want you. Like, that seems ridiculous from somebody that's done, for the people that have done marijuana, they would think of that, well, that guy, if he's a good coder, then just fucking hire him. So I think that's a big thing about this question is there's not going to be a lot of examples that we could think about. Like I have a friend, Dave. I don't know if he watches this series, but he seems to be very intelligent in his work with data. He does like data mining, data analysis for casinos, and he remembers shit so good. Like he's almost, to me, he would be what I would think the opposite of a stoner. He remembers facts and figures and numbers too.
Yep.
He remembers so much. I'm just like, what the fuck are you? Partially, photographic memory?
Photographic memory, yeah.
What the fuck? He's like a walking dictionary when it comes to stats. And if prior to him saying that he smokes, I would have kind of not believed it. I was like, you're not a typical stoner, man. There's no way.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception. In fact, you mentioned Joe Rogan. That reminds me, one time I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't remember that exact quote, but I think on his podcast one time he said, the weird thing, because someone had complimented him on his memory, like, God damn, your mind is a steel trap. And he said, well, here's the weird thing about being a stoner. I have a really good memory, but sometimes I don't. And that hits it on the head. I mean, I'm the same way. I can tell you the names of obscure band members from bands from the 70s that nobody listens to. You know what I mean? I remember weird, random shit, but you ask me what I ate for lunch 3 days ago, I don't fucking know. What day was 3 days ago? You know what I mean? So it's a weird, there is something about pot users that you'll space out on stuff sometimes. Or I remember last time we did this, I was telling you about a book and I couldn't remember the name of the author, the doctor. And like 10 minutes after I left here, I was like, oh, it's fucking... It just came to me, you know what I mean? So it's like when you're high, yeah, for sure when you're high, you can space out and not remember stuff. But I think even for, like I said myself, I was a long-term heavy pot user. And I think most people who know me would tell you, I've got a pretty good memory, you know what I mean? I'm not just spacing out all the time or like, what's up?
Yeah.
I don't think it's dulled my mind in any significant way. Maybe a little bit. Who knows? I'm not a doctor, but I don't feel like an idiot because I smoke pot. You know what I mean? If anything, it's external. It's like I feel stupid because people think I'm stupid because I smoke pot. You know? It's back to the stigma. It's it's what they want. It's the whole anti-pot movement. It's just another, don't smoke this, it'll make you stupid. And then there's plenty of people, smart people who smoke pot. It's ridiculous.
An overarching thing that I think what I think of with cannabis and drugs in general is people should be allowed to do as they want as long as they don't harm others.
Absolutely.
That should be everything. If you want to, we see it even in evidence of how America's moving forward, how gay marriage wasn't allowed 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more, probably 30 years ago.
Well, even less. I think it was more recently that it's just been fully accepted across the nation.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was certain states. You had to go to fucking New Jersey if you wanted to get married or something.
And then we step back further, then there's probably black voting rights, maybe. But everyone should be allowed to do what they want as long as it doesn't harm others.
Right.
If I do marijuana, does it harm someone? Now, there are situations where I think it starts to get to a point where we have to...
There has to be compromise. I think we were talking last time about one of Minh's questions was how people would smoke cigarettes in restaurants.
Yeah.
And that's changed and it's gone away. And I remember we were talking about there has to be a balance because on the one hand, you should be allowed to smoke cigarettes if you want to. But also people who don't smoke cigarettes and don't like that smell and don't want your secondhand smoke, they should have the freedom to walk down the street and not have to deal with your cigarette smoke. You know what I mean? So we have to find a balance with our society. As long as you're not stepping on other people's rights, then you should have the right to do what you want. You know, whatever you feel like. But I don't know where the line is with that cigarette situation. I
think addiction is an interesting factor in that when that statement, people should be allowed to do what they want as long as they don't harm others. If there's overwhelming evidence of scientific research that's been thoroughly unbiasedly tested that says this specific drug A, is heavily addictive, I understand the government probably having some laws in.
Right.
Cannabis, I mean, if you compare cannabis to sugar, to alcohol, to cigarettes and nicotine, cannabis might be right next to sugar, or even less than sugar to some extent. I would say
less personally, but
yeah. So it's a weird thing that alcohol and nicotine is legal, and yet cannabis isn't. So I wish that everybody that watches this, maybe just, you got to start thinking not traditional. Don't take the traditional logic or traditional stuff that the government tells you. Think about it now. Is it fair? Is it addictive? Does it do anyone any harm? I could understand, say, let's take Minh's, I understand Minh's question when he says people may talk slow after
right.
having some marijuana. And there's some people that smoke so much. I think Minh's experience, he was saying he had a friend that smoked so much, it seemed like that guy constantly talked slow. He took a long break from marijuana, and then his speech sped up.
Returned to normal, yeah.
And I think that's where everyone has their own right to do what they want.
Right.
They have to judge themselves and see, am I having a negative impact on my life and my surroundings? And that's their choice.
Yeah. That really should be up to the user, not the government. You know?
Yeah.
If the issue is this is harmful to you, well, let's go back to alcohol and cigarettes. Why aren't you stop stamping that down? I mean,
yeah.
If you look at the statistics, I mean, we all know now cigarettes. How many people were killed by cigarettes?
Yeah.
How many deaths from drunk driving, alcohol poisoning? So it's not even in the same ballpark. If you compare cannabis to alcohol and tobacco. So I don't buy this. The government saying, "Well, you can't do that because it's not good for you." I mean, first of all, that should be my decision. The government is not a doctor to tell me this cannabis is not good for me. I don't know.
I think the slow speech. Yeah, back to the same thing. If the person decides to smoke, they have slow speech. That's their choice.
Right.
In this case, just say that scenario. If we were to play it out for Minh, is that person having a negative impact on your life? You could choose not to hang out with them. If they're a good person, you want to hang out with them, then maybe you could be the good friend and say, "Hey, I really like our conversation. I like what you have to say.
Let's speed it up, bro."
Speed it up. Or you could turn it around and say, "Hey, man, if you stop smoking so much, you could still smoke, but maybe if you slow down, maybe you could get in your workplace, you might look more professional and get a higher pay, maybe." But that's that's up to their choice.
Yeah, again, is that something they care about?
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's the worst you can say about someone, that their speech is slowed a little. I mean, I know I slur a little. I tend to mumble sometimes. I don't know if that's just me or if that's the weed, but...
Well, have you, for the last year, you've cut down a lot?
Yeah, I took a good long break. I didn't smoke between... I stopped last December, and then I started smoking again, I think, late June.
6 months?
Yeah, it was at least 6 months. I didn't smoke at all.
I think
now I'm smoking a lot less than I was before, so...
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing if people ever say that it's addictive. I mean, you were a heavy smoker earlier in the day, earlier in your life.
Yep.
And you took a 6 month break. Did you?
It was no problem.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt anyone. Yeah. I didn't kill anybody.
For me, about 3 years ago, I was doing it every night to fall asleep. I seem to work in the 9 to 5. I don't know. I can't get my body in a rhythm. Yeah. I really can't. Like, it slowly starts creeping where my body's like, okay, it's 2 a.m. Let's go to sleep. Okay, it's 3 a.m. Let's go to sleep. 3 a.m. I got to wake up at like 6 or 7.
I'm not going to get any sleep anyway.
Yeah.
I might as well get up.
But I was able to use marijuana where on those nights I was taking a tiny piece of an edible at like 9 p.m., knock out by like 10 or 11, and then get my 8 hours of sleep. And that was a fantastic year of my life where I was actually sleeping well, getting to work. By the time I wake up, it was out of my system, get to work, be awake, do my job, be well rested, not be cranky, and or thinking. Lack of sleep is pretty bad. On those days when I had lack of sleep, when I go to work as a software engineer, I didn't want to really make any big choices at work. If the manager asked me a certain thing, I would try to delay my answer if I could, because I knew I was working on a lack of sleep that day, and I just didn't want to make any big choices. So I think doing that schedule 9 to 5 for a year, where I was doing marijuana at nights, and then right afterwards I went to Vietnam, where for 6 months I didn't have anything of marijuana, nothing. Right. And there was no withdrawals, nothing, no addiction feelings, no negative side effects. So I think from an addiction thing, both me and you could say, yeah, marijuana is not addictive. I think for both me and you,
Absolutely.
I would definitely say it.
Yeah, at the most, again, it was mental. There would be times where, man, I wish I had a joint right now, but did I do anything about it? No. It's like, I mean, people can do that with anything, you know. Oh, you know what I'd love right now? A fucking cupcake. Cupcake would be so good. You know what I mean? So it was just a craving, something I used to have a lot that I don't have right now. But
yeah,
addiction is like, I mean, I remember when I was a heavy cigarette smoker, if I ran out of cigarettes and I didn't have money, I would put it into action. I would call friends. Hey man, can you loan me $10? I'm out of cigarettes. I would try to keep trying to get those fucking cigarettes. You know what I mean? So with pot, there's none of that. It's like, oh shit, I wish I had weed, but I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I mean, I wish I had some ramen noodles, but I don't feel like going to the store. So guess I'm gonna go without. I can't see any evidence, and nor have I ever known anyone who's been in the grips of marijuana addiction. It just doesn't happen. Maybe somebody does know. There's exceptions to everything, right? Maybe there's an oddball out there somewhere who's so into it that I stabbed a guy once so I could get some weed money, but it seems so unlikely, almost ridiculous.
The idea, I've never heard of it.
The notion of it is, I almost want to just laugh at it.
Yeah,
it sounds silly.
Jumping back to who can we look at and say they do cannabis or psychedelics and they're doing well in their life? I think to answer that, I want to reiterate that a lot of the people that are working in a cubicle in an office and are typical America, they cannot say that they do marijuana. So I think this question is actually, I guess, a bad question in this setting.
Well, what that does is it limits it to people who don't give a fuck, which gives you celebrities and rich people.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Or
what are you going to do to that person?
Or a stoner, but a stoner that may not have much of a career already. So it's a polar.
That's where I fall. Yeah, all my life I've kind of not got nothing going on. So I don't care if you.
This is a polarizing question. Then,
but certainly with cannabis, the list goes on and on. There's so many famous people, successful people, who openly smoke pot, and it's not.
Yeah.
I think the misconception that pot makes you lazy, it's kind of, you can't, it's so invalid now. I mean, just Joe Rogan alone, you can see from all the work he does, from his physical, he's working out all the time, every day. So I think he, among many others, they will actually smoke pot before they go work out. It helps them. That goes back to it affects different people in different ways. I smoke pot. The last thing in the world I want to do is go get some exercise.
Me too.
But there are people who, also depends on what kind of pot you smoke. We can delve into sativas and indicas. They have different effects.
Yeah.
So if you want to be more active and do stuff, you smoke sativa. It's kind of an upper as far as pot goes. If you want to go to sleep, get some indica. Smoke some indica. You'll just chill out on the couch, probably fall asleep. That's what I like.
There's Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman that partakes in cannabis. This question goes into psychedelics. I don't know if we want to save that later when we talk about psychedelics.
We can talk about psychedelics. Yeah.
Let's wait. And then so then the part of this person, I forget if this was Emmett you're saying. Emmett's asking that who can we look at that does psychedelics or cannabis, and then he says,
you're right though, the stigma, sorry to interrupt, but the stigma of it limits who you can point to because people don't want to admit it. Nobody Nobody wants to talk about it.
It's so huge that I really thought about not doing this interview because of that.
I remember you warned me before we did it. Think about what you want to say and don't say, if it might affect your future in some way. And
yeah,
I think this is what we do to affect the future.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The future should be us not worrying about that. So that's what that's the direction I'd like to go in, to show people you shouldn't have to be in the closet about your cannabis use or your psychedelic use. It should be something you can enjoy freely, not worry about what people think about you because of it.
Yeah, I think people should not be prejudiced on all topics and all things of skin color and race and all that. But on top of that, just think about, allow people to do whatever they want as long as they don't harm others. That's what it should, the overarching theme for me for all of this is.
Right.
Emmett adds in there, if there isn't someone that we could think about that does cannabis and or psychedelics who is really successful in their life, is this simply a first world luxury then?
It's definitely not a first world luxury. If you delve into psychedelics, it's been people have been using
tribal
it
things forever,
for centuries.
Yeah,
forever. Yeah, I mean, people don't know that. That's not something that people talk about when they discuss psychedelic drugs. It's not like I don't know. It's not something that, well, a lot of people just don't even know. A lot of people just know what they've heard from the government and what their parents. Don't do that. Don't get into that. You don't want to stay with it. And meanwhile, their parents don't know anything about it. Don't have any experience about it.
I think an interesting way I want to flip this question is it simply a first world luxury of smoking, or is it simply a first world luxury that we're able to converse about, is it good or bad for you? Meaning, in a third world country, where running
about it that way.
That's, he meant the first way.
Right.
I'm flipping it to say, in a third world country where you might be living in a tribe, you may not have running water, you may not have electricity, where marijuana has probably come as a traditional thing through the chain of lineage of your family.
Right.
And it's not even a question then. It's just you do it because it's part of the culture.
Right.
That's almost funny to think that a first world thing that we have is the ability to say, is this good or bad? Or actually, it's so far as, it's actually even further. A first world country that decided, the government said, oh, we're going to make this a Schedule 1 drug, that it's bad. Take it a step further. People are realizing, well, that wasn't really a smart idea, so let's have a discussion about it. And that's where we are now.
Yep. Yeah. Things are opening up a little bit, thankfully. Yeah. Also, I felt like he meant like just taking shrooms or acid as a recreational pastime. What was my response to that last time? I think that may be true. What do you have against that? Should we not do? There is that the list of first world luxuries we have here in America goes on and on. I mean,
I mean, for the psilocybin, for it to go, I mean, something like, I forget if the numbers was 60% success rate on the compared to the typical whatever. I'm trying to remember what type of nicotine replacement that they were doing, but it only had like a 25-30% success rate, and this was 60 to 70% success rate.
Right.
That's a massive jump. And then it's almost frustrating to me. Like, I feel like nothing should try to get in the way of science. And if a Schedule 1 drug, if a chemical is tagged as Schedule 1, and you lose 60 years of science on it, that is detrimental to, I feel like detrimental to all of humankind.
Yep.
Psilocybin was allowed to be prescribed, I think back in the day in the, I don't remember the year, the 40s or the 60s. I think around the 60s, it was allowed to be prescribed by a doctor to say, oh, you're on nicotine and you want to get off, or you're doing heroin, you want to get off of that, here's some psilocybin.
Psilocybin, yeah.
And that, to me, to lose 60 years of research, that is, I actually want to say that is absolutely wrong of the government. And I got to be careful when I say the government, but it could be rich people, corporations pushing lobbyists to pass laws and stuff, but that is still ultimately the government that allows those lobbyists to do that. So it is still the government. That really frustrates me. When you hold science back, I that's the only time I want to get violent at people. Right. If you hold back science, you're holding back humankind.
Yeah, it's human progress that you're halting, because that's how we progress as a species.
Yeah, exactly.
We get our smart people to think about shit, test it, figure it out for us. I can't do it. I can only have my own personal experiments, but as far as advancing our society and even our culture, I don't know.
Yeah. On the flip side of that question, it could be show us a person that is successful using these drugs. I wonder how many people got addicted and didn't have if we had psilocybin that was available to be prescribed as a way to stop your addiction. Mm-hmm. Imagine how many people that could have saved, and maybe those people could have turned out to be scientists thereafter, or whatever, doctors, and maybe those numbers are real small, but you could still say the same argument on either side.
You could flip the question another way and say, well, are there any successful people who threw it all away and fucked up their lives because they just started eating too many mushrooms? Does that ever happen? Do we know any big successes out there in the world who were doing great? Everything was awesome, and then they started taking LSD and just, now they're living on the streets, can't get a job, you know what I mean?
You could take that bigger and actually think about any civilization that's failed. Mm-hmm. Rome, tribes, Hitler. Did any of them fail from anything drug related? It was always war amongst people and politics. Governments and money and politics. That is worse. So that politics, greed is worse than marijuana. So absolutely. You should outlaw that shit. I know that doesn't make sense, but
no, it makes perfect sense. That's why the politics and the greed are so anti-marijuana, man. It's. I mean, is it any surprise we were talking about the using psilocybin to quit smoking? Yeah, I mean, when you bring up topics like this, people are immediately going to say, "Well, you conspiracy theorist." But how long did big tobacco fight against just even saying that it was bad for you? You know what I mean? And then now it's common knowledge that cigarettes kill however many people every year.
Yeah.
So would it be that surprising to if the tobacco companies found out that people were using psilocybin to quit smoking? Would it be a big surprise if they launched a huge campaign to get psilocybin criminalized and we don't want people using that shit?
Yeah.
Even now you see with vaping, anti-vaping commercials paid for by Philip Morris. You know what I mean? Yeah, because some people are using vaping as opposed. I'm not saying vaping's good. I'm pointing out that as soon as people started switching from cigarettes to vaping, we get all kinds of anti-vaping shit. Where do you think that's coming from? Do you think there's a league of doctors who are looking out for our health and saying, don't vape, it's bad for you? Why aren't they saying that about cigarettes? You know what I mean? So...
On the kind of the idea of that conspiracy theory thing, or conspiracy theory, or big companies that have money to pay lobbyists to push their agenda. My last recording of this, I talked about the opioids and my experience with getting in a car accident, breaking my ankle, and them prescribing.
Oxy,
but also what starts with the H?
Heroin. No.
There was another painkiller. I can't remember the name. But I forget that painkiller. It starts with the H, I think. But anyways, afterwards, when they sent me home and they prescribed me oxycodone, either way, I think one is the company, one's the drug name. And then when I went to the pharmacy to pick up my prescription, I had a cast-like splint thingy on my arm because I had what do they call that? A microfracture? I forget the name of it. A small fracture on my wrist, and then I had a big boot on my ankle that the talus bone was shattered, so that had 3 screws holding in the bone down there, and with the car accident, it did something to all my nerves in there. I lost feeling for like I want to say like I lost 80% of feeling for the first day. And then it all came back, and nerves, when it started growing, I don't know if growing is the right word. I don't know the technical terms, but it felt like it was growing back, or things were reconnecting. I was getting shocks of pain. And not only the shocks of pain, then I would also have just that the muscle and everything is all healing from the surgery.
Right.
With the Oxycontin, I would describe the pain factor. When you go through that amount of pain, you're able to categorize 1 through 10, full body or localized pain. And that's how I started describing it. So I would say it was as much as like an 8 out of 10 localized pain, and sometimes a 6 full body pain. And I was just laying at home going through this pain, and I had Oxycontin, and it brought the pain down to a 2 out of 10, sometimes 3 out of 10, up to 2 out of 10, up to 1 out of 10, where 1 out of 10 I could actually fall asleep. But the doctors they didn't describe anything of be careful with the medication, this is addictive. They didn't, there wasn't any phase where somebody said, hey, maybe you should start getting back to normal life. And luckily, in me, right around the 4th month, I was thinking to myself, hey, maybe I forget if it was the 4th month or what. Around the 4th month, I said, you know what? I think I need to find a way to get back to normal eventually. So that means getting off of this Oxycontin stuff and then trying to walk. Very unfortunately, when I went to the doctor and asked, hey, should I be walking now? And the doctor, one of my follow-up visits, the doctor's like, you're not walking yet? Right. She's like, you should have been told to try to walk 6 weeks after the surgery. So we're, 2.5 months late that I wasn't walking. So the whole system from, was it just a bad case with that doctor or that hospital? But later on with the Oxycontin, they never told me, hey, you should try to figure out a way to get off of this too. Luckily, there's 2 times a pharmacist, when I went to pick up my prescription with when I had the cast or the splint on my hand and the cast in the foot or whatever, the boot on the foot, the pharmacist looked at me like, why are you taking this much Oxycontin? Right. And I'm like, dude, can't you see? Like this, I have a knee scooter. Like, can't you tell that I went through something pretty...
Like, let me go back outside so you can watch me enter the pharmacy again. And you tell me why I need that.
So the second time when I saw a pharmacist ask that again, it started me on thinking, why am I taking so much? Or maybe I should get off of this. Though I went through 6 months later, I was going through withdrawals. And that's how strong that Oxycontin shit was. Yep. That is so fucked up. I feel so pissed off at our system that it allows big pharma to push that agenda onto doctors, and doctors are prescribing it. Right. I don't know who's at fault. Greedy motherfuckers in the middle, but that's the situation in our society, that our government and everything that we live in, that is fucking wrong. Who do we blame? I don't really know, but we need to look at this and say, Oxycontin, that's pretty bad. Marijuana, that's probably not so bad. Right. There's a common theme in there is big pharma and the government. Something's in there that's fucked up, and we need to make it better.
Well, and then get back into a conspiracy theory. Maybe that's why the more cannabis legalization we're seeing across the country, I haven't done research, but from all the stuff I'm reading and seeing and hearing, every time a state legalizes recreational marijuana, the opioid use plummets in that state. So is this a surprise that our government officials are getting payoffs from the opioid companies and pushing against legalizing marijuana? I mean, there's an agenda to keep it down. There has to be a reason for that. What do you think the reason is? The reason they give is because it's a terrible drug and it's bad for you. It seems opposite, right? They should be warning us about oxy.
Yeah.
This can be used as a good pain-killing tool, but you have to be careful. They should be telling people right out off the bench how addictive it is. You told me you went through depression when you got off of it.
Yeah, for fucking 6 months or more, man. That's fucked up.
They should. That seems like something.
It was strong depression.
They
It wasn't
should know from all of their
testing.
FDA, before this is approved by the FDA, they should know at that point that when you try to get off of this drug, you're going to go through hardcore depression. Why is that okay? Why is it okay? I've never heard of anyone quitting pot and then just, oh man, hardcore depression. You know what I mean?
And also maybe to make it even.
I mean, people use pot to help their depression.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah. When they say the opioid epidemic in America and the opioid crisis in America.
It's a straight up crisis, folks.
Yeah. Because, I mean, to some extent, if I'm someone saying that marijuana, like I enjoy marijuana, but I don't crave it. I don't like need it in my life. And then OxyContin, I had enough 4 months in. I was taking the 25 milligram daily dosage, I think, was it 4 times a day?
Oh boy.
That shit was fucking strong.
I don't even smoke pot 4 times a day at this point in my life. I mean, before I did for sure, but.
So for me to take that, and 4 months later, something in me that said, luckily, maybe it was those 2 pharmacists that just said something, said, hey, why are you taking so much? And it rang in my head. Yeah. Later on, I said, I need to get to normal. Mm-hmm. Now imagine the people that can't do that. Yep. If marijuana doesn't affect me that much, I mean, it gets me high, but I'm not crawling back to it, or I don't even have a huge need for it. I enjoy it, but I don't have a need for it in my life. OxyContin, even to some extent, 4 months in, I was like, you know what, maybe I need to move on. But there's the opioid crisis of people that can't move on, and I think that's the problem. FDA approved this for doctors to prescribe. Yeah. And unfortunately, somehow it's getting pushed so heavily where even if I wanted to go beyond 4 months of those 25 milligram, 4 doses a day, I could have kept on getting more prescriptions from the doctor. Yep. That is a scary, scary thing. That why are we looking at marijuana so harshly when fucking OxyContin seems 10 million times worse, and that's went through FDA, government, hospitals, and doctors. That is fucking insane to me.
Yeah, it's an age-old question that's never really been answered. Why are you so against this when there's so much that's so much worse? You're telling us that weed is the devil. It's the devil's lettuce.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the fucking happy cabbage.
And if it's so bad, and then connect that same thing, the happy cabbage. If it's so bad, it couldn't even bring down a nation. All the other times in civilization's history, any country or nation that's gone down, it's from war, politics, money. Never been from marijuana.
Yeah, I don't remember the history class where they told us about that country that started smoking weed and just went straight to hell. Everything fell apart.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. I mean, people have been using cannabis for centuries, if not, thousands of years. It's a curse. It grows out of the ground, everybody. It's been on this planet forever. We didn't have scientists synthesize it and put it in a bottle and say, here, take this 4 times a day.
If someone said to you, too many people use marijuana for recreation or even psychedelics, how would you respond?
Maybe, but who? So what? That's a personal opinion. I think too many people enjoy baseball for recreation. I think it's a dumb sport. It's fucking boring. But if you like baseball, watch baseball, play baseball. What do I give a fuck? It's back to what you were saying. If you're not hurting anyone and you're not fucking with anyone else's rights, what do you fucking care what I do? Who cares?
Yeah.
Even if you have an opinion that it's not good for me in my life, that's my choice. That's my decision. You can express that opinion to me and say, hey, maybe if you don't smoke so much weed, things might get better for you. That would be cool, but don't try to just tell everyone it's bad. Don't use it. Stay away from it. It's illegal. You're evil if you use this.
I might go and say, too many people don't use it in this concrete jungle that we live in with, where we go to work 9 to 5, we sit in a cubicle, we're depressed, we're just trying to get that next paycheck to put it in the bank so that we could save up for a BMW or a Mercedes and then buy that bigger house and have stress over money. That almost doesn't seem like a human way to live life. I don't know if I have a way to fix all that, but if you could have marijuana to kind of make you feel better, go to work, you're not hurt anyone, I think maybe in this...
how's that a bad thing?
Yeah. I think in this concrete jungle of America, I think maybe not enough people take it. We need more people to take it.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
take it or smoke it.
Definitely, it seems wrong that there are people that it could help in some way, and maybe they're interested in trying it, and they don't want to because of the stigma. It's illegal. I can't do that. It's illegal. The law is the law. There are people who I wouldn't call it a morality issue, but there are people who just like to go by the rules, and they don't question whether it's a good rule or a right rule. It's just that's the law. I better do the law, and I'm not trying to disparage those people. If that's the way you want to live, that's cool. But you got to think the people who wrote the laws and passed them into law, they're just people, and they have. There's a reason. There's a reason they want it illegal and suppressed, and you have to think about what that reason is, and it's not what they're telling us. It's not because it's so horrible and bad for you. That seems clear now to anyone who thinks about it. So what's the reason? Why are they pushing against this so hard? I don't know.
Money.
Yeah. And notice once it becomes legal in states, it's still, we can talk about the Schedule 1 and the federal, but the more it's legalized, you're getting pharmaceutical companies trying to get on the, okay, well, let's find a way to synthesize it and sell a weed pill. I don't know. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but.
Is it bad for the lungs? I mean, if you're smoking a whole lot,
anything, it's not great for your lungs.
But there's bongs, which I think I theorize when you see how much of the water with the bong, the burnt,
the resin and all that shit,
goes into the water, and you see the water get dirty.
Yeah, I've questioned it whether or not that's actually doing anything, but it seems obvious. If all that shit's staying in the water and on the glass, then it's not getting into your lungs, right? So I mean, I would have to say it helps a little using a water pipe for sure.
And given all the other things that we could die of, cholesterol, sugar, nicotine, hell, alcohol is probably not good for you. Your liver probably has to work too much for it. Those things are so much worse than marijuana. So it's weird that marijuana is such a big issue. It's unfortunate that the government scheduled it as Schedule 1, and then back in I forget if it was this 40s or 60s where they put out their basically propaganda. Basically, they're saying how bad marijuana is and what negative effects it has on you, and none of it was true. And that has kind of pushed that generation. So those people are now our mom's dad, aunts, uncles, and maybe in grandmas. They have that stigma that they push to their children, and we're just repeating. Some people are repeating that message from the parents and grandparents, which is terrible because it should be about science. We should be pushing science. People should learn and push the right information out.
Yeah, the propaganda was so wrong that if you watch it now, it's ridiculous. Like the famous one is Reefer Madness, right? If people have seen they made a movie called Reefer Madness, and the whole point of the movie was to show you how terrible marijuana is. You smoke a joint and you're fucking acting like a maniac and cutting people's throats and shit. And if you watch that today, and if you know anything about pot and pot users, it's literally ridiculous. You watch it and it's silly. You laugh at it. Like, that's nonsense what they're putting in this movie. But at that time, I guess people didn't know. You watch this movie, oh my God, I don't want my son to kill me in my sleep, so I better make sure he does not smoke that marijuana. Okay, that's how we got here.
Never heard of a story of someone smoking marijuana then going to murder someone.
Unless they're smoking it with their meth or something, I don't know. Jeez.
More recent news, did you happen to watch I think it was a Vice news. I think it was Vice News, where in Europe they're getting, I guess you call it laced marijuana from China, and it's laced with something called, I forget, but it's
Is it fentanyl?
I don't think it was fentanyl.
I'm just taking a wild guess. I don't know anything about it.
Haze? They're calling it haze?
I don't know anything about that.
So
I definitely didn't see that show on Vice, but
so people are getting like addicted. So whatever these Chinese companies are doing, lacing it with haze, and haze is, I'm not sure, they didn't even, I wish they would explain what haze was. Maybe people know, maybe haze is in the drug community, maybe that's more well known, I don't know.
Right.
So that Vice documentary, the drug dealer was saying he's actually getting out of the game because he sells a lot of marijuana, he's made a lot of money, but he feels like it's getting to the point where marijuana itself is actually bad. It's bad for people in that case when it's laced with haze.
right. Oh, for sure.
So he's saying he's actually dropping out of the game. He's making like 20 grand a month or something, and he's saying he's out.
Do you know whether that guy was a pot user or not?
In the video they showed him smoking.
Because I would bet that if you smoke pot, you have that moral dilemma. Like, yeah, I'm making 20 G's a month, but I'm not trying to hurt people with this haze lace shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just theorizing here, but that might have been part of the catalyst, just the fact that he uses cannabis. Because if you don't use cannabis and you're selling it to people, there's a good chance maybe you don't give a fuck.
You have no morality on it. You don't even know about it.
I'm not saying no morality, but I think it's like we were saying, the when you smoke pot, you kind of feel more
Love others more.
Compassion, empathy, love. I don't want to hurt people. I don't know any potheads who want to hurt people.
Yep. I totally could see that. I completely
so I mean,
agree with
that just clicked in my head. Like, well, yeah, I would imagine, for example, if I was selling pot and I found out it's getting laced with some haze shit that's hurting people, I feel like I would do the same. I mean, okay, how much money I'm making, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not trying to hurt people with this shit. So,
and in the
it makes sense to me, is what I'm saying. If that guy smokes pot, it makes sense that he wouldn't want to sell harmful laced pot.
In that conversation with him, they asked him, are his customers requesting haze I don't know what they called it, hazed marijuana, but
right.
He's saying, yeah, all the customers are all requesting that now. So there's something addictive in there. It's really bad.
Yeah, that reminds me of not necessarily along the same lines, but the prohibition of cannabis also leads to people are trying to make synthetic weed that it's technically legal because they're concocting some new shit that's not on the books. So I forget, I was watching some show about it where people were going to head shops, places where they sell pipes and tobacco and all kinds of smoke shops. You'll see a place called Smoke Shop. If you go into a smoke shop, they sell pipes and bongs and cigarettes and all kinds of vapes and shit. And these smoke shops they will have these synthetic marijuana, and that shit apparently is not real good for people because they're just mixing up with random chemicals and shit. They had one in-depth report where this guy was like, yeah, you can get all these ingredients at Walmart or wherever the fuck and just cook up your own synthetic weed. And then some people will use that. This is back to talking about the law. It's like, I'd like to smoke weed, but it's illegal. So I'll take this more harmful synthetic weed. Yeah. And they're really nothing alike. I mean, I'm sure it gets you high. I haven't tried any of these synthetic marijuanas, but
yeah,
it's an issue. The fact that it's illegal to smoke weed is causing people to, well, I don't want to break the law, so I'll smoke this harmful shit that's kind of like weed. They're calling it weed. It's synthetic. It's legal. I'll try that. Now, I do believe the police, in particular to this show I was watching, I wish I remember more about it, but the police were trying to do something about it. It's not like they were just, yeah, sure, sell your synthetic weed and hurt people. You know, they were trying to get a grip on it, but because people are just cooking up new shit, they list their ingredients, and it's like, well, you can't none of these ingredients are illegal, so why are you telling me my synthetic weed is illegal? So it's an issue. It's a relatively new issue that I think they're trying to deal with and tackle, but I don't know if they're making any headway.
This person wrote, this person's in the military.
Ooh,
and they're currently in the military, and they've never taken marijuana. They don't feel that they need to. However, when they retire, they may have a cookie. I think that's just unfortunate on the government side of scheduling this marijuana. And when I say freedom of speech in this context, it's unfortunate that government has put propaganda out about marijuana as a Schedule I drug. And so people in the military who are potentially putting their lives on the line, and yet they can't even have some marijuana. Especially when marijuana, as far as we see all the evidence that it's not that bad, it's not bad for you, it's not addictive, you could stop at any time. It's unfortunate that people that are putting their lives on the line cannot have a little bit of enjoyment.
Yeah, all throughout government, they have such a like a zero tolerance policy where like, you can't work in government if you smoke pot, or if you. In fact, I thought I had heard that you can't get a government job. I mean, I'm just repeating shit I heard. I don't know about this, but I think if you've used LSD or psychedelics, you can't get a government job. Like they ask you beforehand. It's like a background check. Have you ever used LSD? Yep. Sorry, we ain't fucking hired because you did that once when you were 20.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I can't. All right. I could be way off on this. I don't know much about that, but
I think if in a perfect world, a utopia where freedom of speech is there, and therefore if you've done psychedelics before in your 20s, you go for a job interview in your 40s, and they're like, hey, they wouldn't even ask. They're like, can you perform this job, and can you perform it 40 hours a week? That's all that fucking matters. And then kind of freedom of speech where if the government has this propaganda, it's kind of makes the people that work for the government, they don't have freedom of speech anymore. They can't say that, yeah, I would like to try marijuana, and I think I will try. That's not really, I mean, I guess they could say that, but it really changes the psyche to where if you have to say the same thing that the government is promoting, or the message that the government has, I think that really affects the government employee.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. There's so much hypocrisy too. I mean, that for some reason that popped in my mind when when you talk about gays in the military. For a long time, it was the don't ask, don't tell policy, right? Like if you're gay, you can be in the military and fight for us and die for us. Just don't tell anyone that you're gay. And it's like, what?
Yeah, that's
like, so you're willing to use these people but not let them be themselves?
Yeah.
Well,
yep, that's really fucked up.
Just keep it under the table. It's cool if you're gay, but it's not cool, right?
Yeah.
Is it cool if you can't talk about it?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not cool with it. So it's just the hypocrisy is weird.
Yep. So Eric, when you do retire, I'm gonna have a cookie with you, man.
Yeah.
Maybe Steve too.
Let's go deep, Eric. Get some mushrooms. Smoke some DMT, we'll talk to the aliens, bro.
I'm guessing if he's this afraid of marijuana, he's going to be more afraid of psychedelics.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, thank you for your service, and we don't want you doing cannabis or psychedelics while you're on active duty. Let's be safe.
Well, you could be your active duty you're just. Not while you're on the clock, right, carrying a gun.
Not while you're manning your post, please. But this is the issue. He should be allowed to.
I think so. Yes.
When he's at home,
he should have the option to say yes or no. He shouldn't be stuck to a no.
When you're at home on leave, even if you're in the military or whatever, you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want in your house. I mean, that's what you're fighting for. You're fighting for our freedom. So who's to tell me that I can't sit in my house and spend 4 to 6 hours exploring my consciousness with these psychedelic compounds? Whose business is that? I'm not hurting anyone. It all comes back to the same shit. Personal choice, personal freedom. we should be allowed to. It should be our choice. You should be allowed to do that if you want to.
If marijuana,
and if you don't want to, don't. It's cool. I'm not pushing anyone who doesn't want to take it. That's the difference. The evil shit, they'll push it on you.
Yeah.
Heroin dealers want you to try heroin, so you get hooked on it.
Yep. Or
if
opioids.
you don't want to, if you don't want to smoke pot or eat mushrooms, please don't.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. I don't know. It's a crazy world we live in.
Yep. Generation divide. This was a question by Minh. So I don't think there will be. I think it's just gonna melt together. The good one was the being gay in the military. There was a time where it wasn't okay to be gay in the military. Right. There was a time where it was just don't ask, don't tell. Mm-hmm. So that there was just a blending where the next generation just had it a little bit easier. Right. And then the next generation was where it's okay. Actually, I don't even know where they stand on gays in the military right now.
I think it's cool. You could be fully open now.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but...
It should have always been.
Yeah, that's the way it fucking should have been.
Yeah. But it melted together in a spectrum and not just a hard time where it's like these people didn't know a time where marijuana was legal. Mm-hmm. It's kind of legal now, and eventually, hopefully, federally, it'll eventually become federally legal someday, which I actually think that's going to be a long while, but that's due to money, not from my own preference. I think that's the way America is, with its government, with its federal corruption of lobbyists and big pharma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what Minh's saying about the generational divide. I just don't think it'll be a big deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not. If anything, it'll be more of like a fun thing where, man, you kids just walk into the store to get your weed. I used to have to go meet a guy in a parking lot, some shady dude that I didn't know. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't see it being an issue, like a big problem where...
Yeah.
And also, I think I mentioned last time, it already happened. There was a time before, and marijuana hasn't always been illegal. They prohibited it. So there was a time where it was all good. It was in medications. They would have cannabis in all kinds of tinctures. People used it as a medicine. And then one day, because of some asshole businessman, I didn't delve too deep into it, but the story you hear from Joe Rogan and guys is the one guy, William Randolph Hearst, owned a fucking paper company, and they were going to start using hemp plants for paper, and he's like, no, that'll ruin my fucking wood tree paper business, so let's get that shit. And then so when they made hemp illegal, they evidently the government didn't even realize they were making cannabis illegal when they made hemp illegal. They thought they were just the hemp stock and the plant, but they go hand in hand. So I don't know. I don't want to go off on I don't know. That's about the extent of what I know about it. Just stuff I've heard. But
what's your theory on cannabis being removed as a Schedule 1? Soon, later, much later?
I mean, I feel like it's got to happen soon. It really should have happened already. But
I agree with that last part. I think it.
Who knows how long it'll... I mean, people have been saying since the 70s that, pot's going to be legal any day now. You know what I mean? So, and it's taken this long just to get where we are now. And it's still not fully legal. So
I think Emmett said that the largest union, the largest workers union in America is the prison guards. Prison guard workers union. So therefore, they definitely don't want...
Yep. They donated lots of money to keeping it illegal.
Correct.
Because there's a lot of potheads in jail. Guys who got busted for selling a 20 bag of weed.
Yep.
We want to keep them in there. Because if you suddenly make pot legal, they lose their business. They lose business. Yeah. The business is people getting locked up in there. So
forget if it was Eric where he said that if federally it's illegal, but yet at the state level it's legal. He was saying why he doesn't think the state should be more powerful than the federal.
I think that was Quan, wasn't it?
Oh, was it Quan?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I seem to remember reading that name though.
I think at a federal level, that's typically they're making a general rule, and each state will make kind of alterations that fit to their state.
Right.
So I don't.
It seems like that's the way is set up to be. It's like we're supposed to be able to govern ourselves individually. I mean, that's why it's otherwise. Why be
have
separated?
50 states?
Yeah, why be separated into states? Why aren't we just the America, the United States of America.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have an overarching daddy putting the rules in for all of us, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there are things that are appropriate for federal law to trump state law. I don't know. I haven't thought about it too much, but it seems like with something like cannabis, the fuck do people in Washington care what's going on here in Nevada? I mean, it seems to be working okay the way they've got it set up here in Nevada. So why? And I mean, I think that has slowed down to an extent. You don't see a lot of federal raids. You know what I mean? They seem to have backed off a little bit. I think that started with Obama a little, but I'm not sure.
So I think this was Mark was saying it needs to be reclassified like alcohol and become fully legal under new business models, especially since our new Vice President, Kamala Harris, brought up making cannabis legal during her vice presidential debate with Michael Pence. I think it's going to be so far away. Federally, things take forever. Take forever with the government. There's too much money motive. I think that's the hugest. Everything that happens in America, it's all money and corporations and greed. I don't see them having a desire to make cannabis legal now.
Yeah, until they find a way that they
until Big Pharma could say, hey, we're going to sell cannabis.
Until they find a way to capitalize off of it, they have no interest in making it legal for us. Because what it's going to take is just more and more pressure, and I don't know if outrage is the right word, but it's got to take more and people talking to our lawmakers and just being, hey, this is ridiculous. Stop locking people up for this. And I feel like we've been slowly waking up over the last couple of decades. But you're right. Who knows how long it could go? I mean, my initial response was, I feel like it's got to happen soon, but who the fuck knows? Our government is so ass backwards in so many ways. Yeah. And I think we talked about it last time, but it's you mentioned we got to be careful when we say the government, because it's not just one huge evil, or you know what I mean. Everything's so compartmentalized, and this office handles this issue, and this department deals with this. So it's like we say the government, but it's not like anyone with a government job is trying to keep cannabis away from us. It's the fucking, I don't know who's in charge of it now, ATF, or whoever handles the scheduling. I forget which department runs it. I feel like it was the ATF for some reason. There was a recent, I feel like recently in the last couple of years it was up for rescheduling, and they fucking shut it down. They're like, nope, sorry, we can't make money off of that, so we're just gonna leave it the way it is.
Minh asks, is there a DUI type of measure where if you get in a car accident, someone was under the influence of marijuana? I don't think that there is anything.
I don't know much about that. I think there may be, I don't really know. You'd have to ask someone in law enforcement. I've heard things about like breathalyzers that can detect, but I don't know enough about how that could, I don't know scientifically how that would work. And then how do you decide how long ago that person smoked? I mean, I believe the law for DUI, depending on which state you're in, but I think in California it was, you can't have smoked in the last 24 hours or something. So if you get pulled over and they ask, they'll ask you, when was the last time you smoked? Don't say last night, because that's still not cool. Tell them last weekend. Even if you smoked last night, because technically it stays in your system for however long, even if it's not really affecting you. You know what I mean? I've never smoked pot and then still felt high 24 hours later. I mean, I know you were saying the very first time. The first time I
haven't had that feeling.
It's different for everyone, but once, particularly once you become a regular cannabis user, you build up a tolerance to it. So.
Just like alcohol, just like probably nicotine.
Yeah, any substance you use more and more, you're gonna build up a tolerance. So, So in that case, in that sense, I don't even know how you could set a time limit on it, because it's different for different people. You know what I mean?
Well, they try to say let's go with alcohol. So there's that 0.08. And that 0.08 is probably going to affect different people different ways, because if you're used to alcohol, you're going to be able to handle a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. But even that seems more fair, because that's the percentage of alcohol in your blood, which I think would vary with your size and biology. So it's not like, I think if you and I drank the same amount of alcohol, I don't know if we would have the same blood alcohol content. I really don't know.
But also, I mean, because I know that if I drink every weekend, my tolerance will, right now, I don't really drink at all. Right. So about 2 weeks ago, I had 2 drinks on a nearly empty stomach. Man, I felt that alcohol.
Yep.
But if I ate some, and then if I was drinking every weekend, I remember back in the day when my tolerance was going up to 6, 7, 8 drinks.
Right.
And I could still function pretty well.
Yep.
So that 8 drinks was equivalent to my 2 drinks today. So it's just your tolerance of it.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely true with cannabis. I mean, that's what happened last time we did this. I'm pretty sure you literally only took 1 hit off of the pipe before we came in and did this.
For the interview, yes. Yeah. But then, afterwards we went out for I did 2 or 3 more hits, and that freaking knocked me out.
Good night.
But yeah, so I did 1 hit, and during the interview, I was pretty much, like, I couldn't talk that well. Yeah. It hit me pretty heavy.
Yeah, even me, I use it a lot more than you do, but not as much as I used to. And I was just fucking flying for that interview.
Yeah. So if
I didn't smoke that much. I took maybe 4 or 5 hits.
So audience, if you're watching this, and then I'm going to release the first part 1 later on, so watch that while you're high or under something.
That one's more for fun.
Yeah, that one's for fun.
We're trying to have a more serious talk this time. But it was enjoyable, and I think we did cover some good stuff. It was just a little more disjointed, and
I think there's a lot of thoughts not fully finished out.
Right. Yep.
We would start a thought and not finish it. The idea on the DUI measure for smoking, I think it sucks that we've lost 60 years of research on marijuana and certain Schedule I drugs. So we would need some time probably for scientists to figure out where can they measure something similar to the 0.08 in alcohol and get that for marijuana.
You're right. I didn't think about that, but that's how they got to that number. Is they did tests. They had people drink and then drive in a controlled setting, and then they landed on okay, this is okay. This is not okay.
Yep.
So they need to do that somehow with cannabis.
And they need to test it on the sense of also, when people drive under the influence of cannabis, as far as I understand, you just kind of drive slower. You don't drive like a maniac, unlike drunk people that when you see on the news that drive on the freeway backwards, that's some drunk dude driving 130 miles per hour on the freeway on the wrong side of the freeway. I've never heard that with a marijuana stoner. Yeah. So it's 2 very different beasts. But we did lose, I'm guessing, 60 years of research. I don't know the exact amount. We need the time to research that. Scientists need to be able to research that, because as a Schedule I, a lot of them can't do the research. That's an important thing that...
Not allowed.
That's an important thing that America is holding back. The government, or whatever the system is holding back studies on these very important things that could help society, that could help humankind.
Hindering science.
Maybe not humankind, helping humans in America, helping our nation.
But yeah, it's almost opposite with DUI, with alcohol and cannabis. I mean, what happens a lot of times when you're drinking is like, it impairs your judgment. So you don't realize how drunk you are. So you think, I'm not that bad, I can drive home. And then, oh fuck, I crashed into something. Most people I've known who smoke pot, you know how high you are, and you know whether or not you should be driving. You know what I mean? Like I think personally speaking, I know my limits, and if I get too high, I'll be like, oh no, I'm not fucking driving right now. I'm too high. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. Yep.
And you don't hear a lot of stories about people. Man, I smoked a joint and got on the road and just whoo, I was all over the place.
I have yet to ever
hear
a story.
Like you said, you kind of drive more careful, because if anything, you're a little bit paranoid. I know I'm high. I need to be extra careful and not fucking. I don't want to get pulled over, and I don't want to hit anything. But you're not thinking like that when you're drunk. When you're drunk, you're, man, I'm fine. Don't worry about it, bro. I'm all good. And, so.
Eric's,
now, I'm not promoting smoking and driving.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
We are not promoting anything illegal. None of this conversation is anything to promote anything illegal. We're
just talking here, folks. Calm down.
Eric says current California law is too lax. Now,
again, I think that was Quan.
This one was gone? Okay.
I think that was the same question. He said that too lax in California, and it shouldn't trump state law.
Okay, we're calling out either Quan or Eric. It doesn't matter. Both of you guys
wrong.
being
I'm
called
sorry,
out.
guys, if I'm wrong.
I think I wonder what it says. Need better regulation. State law cannot be more law than federal law. Now, when I first read California law is too lax, my first initial thought is, like maybe they're letting too many people smoke. That was my initial thought reading this question, so I'm just going to answer it that way for the heck of it. So maybe getting a medical marijuana license is too easy. Maybe too lax in, is it 2 grams? I don't know the amount that you could hold at any given time.
Oh, it's pretty high.
Yeah, it's that. Now, okay, so I do...
It's more than 2 grams.
I sort of agree on that one. Maybe because I'm a lightweight. I don't know. Even from... If you were to say from a heavy stoner, like someone that partakes a lot, is that... What is... do you know the amount? Is it 4 grams?
So that grams? You're allowed to... I think... I believe...
I forget that
for what you're allowed to have on you, say like if a cop stops you... I think you're allowed to have up to an ounce on your person.
Ounce? Okay. An ounce is a whole lot.
That's a lot of weed. Even a half ounce. If it's a half ounce, that's still a lot of pot.
A heavy stoner, what would their outtake be on an ounce? How much is that?
It's hard to say. I mean, even myself, I was a heavy pothead, and an ounce would last me a couple weeks at least.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would...
So that is where I would...
It's also, are you trying to kill an ounce? You could smoke an ounce.
Yeah.
If that's your goal.
Yeah.
You could burn to an ounce fairly quickly, but...
So that's where my mind goes to if someone says the current California law is too lax, which I don't think this is what they're asking. But if they could carry a whole ounce at one time is a lot. Maybe regulate that down to...
But why though? What? Who cares?
I agree with you on that.
I mean, you allowed to buy 100 cases of whiskey
Beer.
if you want.
Yep.
Nobody cares how much whiskey you've got in your trunk. So what does it matter? I'm
and
not smoking
worse.
it all right now. So who cares how much I have?
Yep.
Like, I mean, people like to stock up. You know, like I said, I would get my paycheck on Friday, and I would go stock up on weed and make sure I had enough weed to get me through the week. So, I mean, I never bought an ounce at a time. I mean,
what I think they mean, and let me know if you disagree. I think what they mean is California is allowing too many people to buy marijuana. It's too relaxed on getting the licenses out. So this person is they're actually against marijuana, I think. That's what I theorized.
Well, I would agree with the medical. Before it was recreationally legal and they just had medical marijuana in California, I would agree that they needed more regulation. There was people who had nothing wrong with them getting a medical card. Oh, I get headaches. Okay, you should go smoke weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that sense, I agree that they should have regulated that better. But now that it's legal recreationally, what's to regulate? I mean, what all there is like how much you can have.
Yeah.
So why put a limit on that if you're not going to limit things like alcohol? I mean, I could buy 50 cartons of cigarettes if I want and smoke them nonstop, smoke myself to death. So it seems weird that you would want to put more regulations on something that's technically legal now. But that leads into the second part where if you look at it from a federal standpoint, it ain't legal. So, I mean, I guess in that case, it just depends on a personal choice whether you want to respect the federal law or not.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't. What are they going to do? The most they could do is come raid pot dispensaries.
Yeah.
Or if they really didn't like you for some reason, I guess they could bust into your house and stop you from smoking a joint. But that seemed like a huge waste of resources, right?
From what I heard in California, I know somebody that ran a dispensary. They're saying the cops were only targeting the top 10 distributors. So if you were making somewhere over a mil a month,
Uh-huh.
you're maybe in the top 10, and the cops want to go after you because if they get to your store, you might have 2 million on hand in the safe at that moment, and
Right.
the cops are able to confiscate that.
The other thing about regulation is where I could agree is that they have rules now where you kind of have to have all your pot tested. You can't be having pesticides on it and shit. And I know, particularly in California, there are plenty of places that fly under the radar.
Yeah.
They're not charging you tax. They're not doing any kind of tests on the content, the chemical content, or any of the pesticides or any of that shit. In that sense, I would agree. They should, if you're gonna make it legal, then you need to operate within the law. So because you basically going against legalization if you're not following the law. So all these places that are not conforming to the law, yeah, maybe they should clamp down on that shit. I don't know what you do about that though, because like I said, they're going under the radar. I mean, generally they're not. I would go to places where they would move their location every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
There was one spot I went to where they would literally just move across the street, back and forth every few weeks, every couple of months. They would send you a text, hey, we're at this address, and I'm like, oh, that's right across the fucking street. And then it just kept going back and forth between the same two spots. And I'm like, that's all you need to do to not get busted is move from here to here every couple of weeks? Like, Jesus Christ.
I think in correlation with this federal law thingy, look at other countries like Portugal who has decriminalized drugs, the whole thing from heroin to marijuana, and they've dropped drug usage as a whole throughout their country.
Yep.
And their country's doing so much better. I think that why can't America look at that and say, hey, Portugal, you got your shit together and you're doing a good job. Why can't we copy them?
Because we're number one, bro. America's the greatest, and a lot of people just think that way. We need to follow anyone else's example. We do our thing here, and our government says weed is bad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I think a lot of people just don't even think about it that far. You know what I mean? It's sorry, government said no.
Yep.
I'm gonna take that.
Question everything. Like Fox Mulder used to say, right?
The truth is out there. We just gotta find it.
What role does cannabis and psychedelics play on mental health?
Ooh.
Is this one from Emmett?
I think that was from Trinh.
Okay.
Why is my stoner memory better than yours? That would make sense, right? That seems right up her alley. Mental illness.
Yeah.
Well, that might have come out wrong. I wasn't saying Trinh is crazy. I'm saying Trinh works and deals with mental illnesses.
Yeah. I just posted her.
Yeah, check out the podcast with Trinh. And if that wasn't from Trinh, I'm sorry. The role with mental health, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Like I said, myself and I know many other people use cannabis to help with depression. It can help, and I certainly with psychedelics. I know whenever I eat mushrooms, I'm super happy. There's nothing I'm sad about, and it lasts for a few days after the experience. It stays with me. But there's a slight danger, I think, with people who already have established mental health issues, particularly with like schizophrenia.
Yep.
I think psychedelics and possibly even cannabis, which I think we talked last time, myself and many others consider cannabis to be a very mild psychedelic.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think if you smoke enough or take some hardcore edibles, you can kind of get to that place or right at the edge of it.
I think my psychedelics in the sense of seeing colors and things, I would say when I hear people talk about psychedelics in the way that they think at that time, cannabis does kind of do that to me. Maybe when they talk about near-death experience, feeling that, now that's the next level. But
Right.
So I would say my experience with cannabis, when I hear about people talk about the mild effects of psychedelics, that's how it affects me.
Right. Yeah, I know if I get super, super high on weed and like close my eyes, I can see spinning patterns and shit, you know what I mean? So it's like I said, it gets you right at the edge, knocking on the door of the psychedelic realm. maybe you could go in there if you smoke enough. I haven't gone that deep with the weed yet. So that's one of the issues that it makes it so ridiculous to claim that it's harmful, because you could literally smoke all day, every day, and not, it's probably not good for your lungs, but nobody's ever smoked themselves to death. It just doesn't happen. I think you'd have to smoke some ridiculous, like 17 pounds of marijuana in one sitting. And how long is one sitting? You know how long it would take to smoke that much pot? But to smoke that much weed, it would take you days to smoke 17 pounds of weed. Or to smoke your own body weight in weed, or so whatever it is. Again, we don't know, because there's no real studies.
And nobody would do that. It'd probably be the equivalent of like
would do that.
Locking up a room, like smoking, have a machine that's humidifying marijuana or smoking or whatever you want to call it, and that's the pure oxygen or the pure smoke is come. Yeah, it's a hot box, and it's just getting new air from marijuana.
Right.
Nobody would do that in their straight mind. I don't think anybody in their straight mind, I don't think so, would do that.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It would be such a heavy undertaking that I don't think any stoner would take it on to build a hot box of that size, to build a machine that just only circulates marijuana air. That's
so the notion of it being a danger, just in that sense, because I mean you could literally drink yourself to death. You could buy enough alcohol and just keep drinking until it kills you. You know what I mean? You could do that. I don't think anybody could really smoke themselves to death. That would have to be your goal, and like you said, nobody would do that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to kill yourself, smoking weed is not the way to go. It's just not going to happen.
From a personal level, where I think,
and I don't advocate killing yourself. Please don't mistake anything I'm saying here.
Where I think cannabis and mental health, at least what I would say with depression, anxiety, people that are really high strung, I feel like cannabis would be good for them. Cannabis would just chill you out for a bit.
Most people, it mellows you out.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I can't speak for psychedelics. I've watched a decent amount of documentaries. It's, from my opinion of the documentaries, it looks like it can have a place, but maybe just as much as food, cholesterol, sugar, you just got to pick the right amount for you. Same thing with cannabis, same thing with psychedelics. What is your mental state? What are you looking to do to fix, or what are you looking to stabilize?
Right.
That's your choice.
Yeah, even with psychedelics, I don't know of any cases where someone died from eating too much acid, you know what I mean, or too many mushrooms.
I think that's, I heard of, was Emmett saying that it has been cases of too much acid. Now, I don't know enough about it.
But I think even in that sense, too much means maybe it fried their brain in some way, but it doesn't kill you, you know what I mean? No one had an overdose of LSD and just fucking croaked, as far as I know. There is a danger with any substance you use. If you're gonna do stupid shit, if you eat a bunch of mushrooms and walk along a cliffside, you could fucking trip and fall down the cliff and kill you and die. You know what I mean? So, but that's with anything. You can't blame the substance for stupid or unlucky behavior. You know what I mean? That's unfortunate. If you're walking on a dangerous cliff and you slip, that sucks. But is that because you were on mushrooms, or just because you slipped, or?
Yeah.
That, again, that's a personal choice. Like, people have the right to do stupid shit, right? As long as you're not hurting anybody else.
Like storm Capitol Hill.
Right? I wonder how many of those people were on mushrooms. Probably not that many, I would guess.
Recreational use benefits. Should everyone use cannabis and or psychedelics?
Only people that enjoy it. And I mean, the only way to find out if you're going to enjoy it or not is to try it. If you're interested, try it out.
Yeah.
If not, leave it. Take it or leave it. I mean, I'm not into drinking. I don't drink that much. Very rare occasion I'll have a drink, but I'm not sure why I mentioned that.
Is there a benefit to just recreational use? I think I wonder if they're saying there are stoners that use it way too much, and then there's people that use it there's probably normal people that don't do it that could use it recreationally, should they? That's up to everyone's discretion.
Yeah.
I think to some degree, how mild marijuana is to alcohol. If everyone's done alcohol, if you've had one alcoholic drink before, at least one, and you thought it wasn't that bad, marijuana is going to be actually a lot lighter. Now, the grade of marijuana nowadays is kind of different though. Now it's getting really strong. When you go into these dispensaries, that shit is fucking strong. Back in the day, if you get a joint back in the day where it's like 15% THC, 10% freaking, you probably get less back in the day. Nowadays, it's freaking 30, 40, 50, 60. I saw some shit at the medical grade shit, 90.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can just get straight weed concentrate, like the dabs and stuff.
Oh, dabs, Jesus
90
Christ.
90-some% THC, so they've definitely stepped it up. Like, weed technology has gone off the rails. So people are finding newer ways to get higher and higher. I don't
have anything against dabs, but that shit's fucking strong.
You gotta be careful. I think we talked last time, particularly with edibles. You want to be careful with edibles because
they take a while to hit.
They can creep up on you. It's hard to know. That was another issue with the regulation. When I was in California and I had edibles, it seemed like there was no real... They measured it in milligrams of THC. But I would get things... You know what I mean? I would get a brownie that said 100 milligrams, and that would knock me the fuck out. And then I've had things that were 400 or 500 milligrams that no big deal. So is that an issue with regulation or testing, or I don't know what the issue there is, but it doesn't seem consistent, at least with those products. I feel like things are better here in Nevada. There's a lot more. Everything I bought in Nevada, there's all kinds of info and data on the testing, and it's got this in it and that in it. Harvested on this date, tested on this date, packaged. There was none of that in the places that I was going to. Like I said, I was hitting some shops that were not following all the rules, but it seems like they've got it figured out here in Nevada, and it runs smoothly. And I actually like that. It's interesting. Even the stuff I don't understand, there's stats on these stickers that I don't know what that means, but I still find it interesting to read. Oh, it's the limonene terpene profile is this much percentage. I don't know what any of that means, but I still check it out every time I buy something.
I wonder if I forget if this was a question from Minh, and I wonder if the meaning or what he means from this is there a benefit to just recreational use? Meaning, I'm guessing Minh, he hasn't tried marijuana before. He's a pretty happy guy. He doesn't feel like he needs marijuana to make him any happier. He doesn't have any depression issues or anxiety.
Right.
So from his side, would there be any benefit for him to use it? You don't know till you try to some degree, but if you're already happy, I mean, no one's forcing you to try it.
Yeah.
And maybe the other way to look at this, if you go online and look around and see people say that there's no addictive quality to this, and it doesn't permanently change your system, your body long term. So just try it out, and it's lighter than alcohol. In my opinion, the effects are lighter.
It depends what you get and who you are. It affects different people different ways.
Yeah,
and back to tolerance also.
Yeah. I would say it's lighter than alcohol. Like, as in my opinion, if you did one hit off a joint versus maybe 2 beers, I would say almost the 2 beers it's worse for your body and your liver. Whereas the one hit on the joint, you're going to get a high, depending on your tolerance. Somebody that's new to it, you're probably going to feel the high. Whereas two alcoholic drinks is pretty bad for your liver. And maybe a hangover, maybe.
As far as benefits, of recreation, it's like any other recreational activity. What benefit? You have a good time. It feels good, you like it, or you don't like it. It's just like anything else. Yeah, I mean, I know Minh likes to play volleyball a lot. That's real big on his recreation. Mm-hmm. I'm not into volleyball, so I don't play volleyball. It's like anything else new for recreation. You got to try it out and see if you like it, but if you have no interest in trying it out, then don't. You know what I mean? Like, I've never gone skydiving, and I don't have any desire to. So I'm not gonna go skydiving. Yeah. Someone could tell me, "Oh, but it's so much fun, bro. It's such a rush." And I'm like, "That's cool. You enjoy it. I'm not into that." So maybe that's where Minh is with marijuana. Maybe he's had people telling him, I love to smoke weed. It makes you feel great. I mean, if you're not looking for a new way to have fun and feel great, then
Yeah.
you don't need to try marijuana. If you are, smoke a joint. Maybe you like it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really like to do is smoke a little bit and then watch those like Vine-like videos or the 7-second or 15-second videos that are just short, funny clips.
Right.
I love to just veg out and watch that. I have a good time.
I mean, I know Min's a big fan of movies too. That's one of my favorite.
Oh, man.
One of my favorite things to do is get high and watch movies or listen to music.
What?
But do you enjoy movies without it? I mean, I enjoy movies without it. The recurring theme with marijuana users is that it just kind of makes everything better. Like a lot of people love food. They like to eat food. Tastes tastes better when I'm high. Maybe not. Maybe you're just high and you think everything's better. But
for me, food when I'm high, food doesn't actually taste that much better. It's just the munchies. Like I got to be shoving stuff down.
We talked about this
throat.
after the last one. So we might as well get into the munchies and shit.
Fuck. But watching Rick and Morty, oh my goodness, it's a world of difference. Watch it when you're not high, and then watch it when you're high. Fuck, my mind just gets blown away.
Some people might argue that you have to be high to enjoy Rick and Morty. I wouldn't. It's a great show, but
yeah, I think
it helps.
I don't think I would be able to intelligently break down some of so many things that Rick and Morty has. If I was high. So Minh, maybe if you want to try a new experience, get high and watch a movie. That sounds for a new person trying out marijuana. I feel like it's such a new experience that my suggestion, almost like psychedelics, find a comfortable spot and do it where you're comfortable. Because I'm trying to remember. I think
don't smoke a joint and go to the movie theater.
Yeah,
the first time
that would be bad. Watch at home, and almost schedule it on the weekend, like on a Saturday, where you
make sure you don't have nothing important to do.
Just for your first time, that's how I would suggest it.
Yeah.
Is there a point where too much can hinder a healthy life? I think that's to everyone's discretion. If you are able to handle a lot, then go for it.
It's also a matter of opinion. Like, how do you judge what's a healthy life?
Yeah.
I mean,
if you take there's person A, person B. Person A likes to get stoned all the freaking time. Person B cares about person A. Person B is like, oh, you're throwing away your life. I mean, you could say that about someone eating too many Twinkies. If they love Twinkies, it's kind of tough to stop them, maybe.
Don't bring my dad into this.
If they like to skydive, that's their own thing. They could die skydiving. They could die eating Twinkies. They could...
I'll tell you what, skydiving's killed more people than pot has. I think.
I don't think there's been a recorded death to marijuana
Not
ever.
From use, I mean, if you want to get into like cartel wars and drug shit, I mean, people have been killed over marijuana, but I don't know if anyone's ever been killed as a result of marijuana use. But I know a ton of people go skydiving and their fucking parachute don't open. Probably because the guy who packed the chute was high on weed. We're solving mysteries here. We're going to save the world.
No, they were doing opioids, man.
That's right. He was high on oxys.
So can it hinder a healthy life? I think a healthy life, you would kind of reassess yourself when you eat stuff, when you work out. If you try a drug, you hopefully reassess yourself and say, this is too much marijuana. Maybe I need to back off. But
you know what? This is an appropriate time to bring up something I wanted to talk about last time, and I just forgot. That stomach issue I had.
Yes.
So in that sense, I mean, I don't know 100%. To make it clear, for many years, I had a recurring stomach issue where every 3 or 4 months, I would just start puking. And I couldn't hold down any food, no water, just puking. Anything I put in me comes back up. And it was an intense fatigue and pain. I literally could do nothing but sleep and puke. I would wake up to puke and then right back down. And this would usually last 2-3 days. And for the longest time, I had no idea what it was. I mean, I still don't know for sure. But I forget there was a name for the condition.
Yeah. I'll look it up. Go ahead, talk about it.
But there is something out there for long-term heavy pot users. This seems to be a thing that you get this weird stomach issue. I remember reading someone that, like, it seems to help if you take a hot shower or something.
Yep.
I never tried that because I was just in no condition to get in the fucking shower. I was so wiped out. Like I said, all I could do was sleep and puke. So, I never. So I went to doctors. I went to the ER. I went to urgent care, and they never kind of. I hit a wall where, I didn't have money or insurance. So the next move would be to see a stomach specialist, which I couldn't do. So. But here's the good news. When I quit smoking pot last December, I took that 6-month break. I haven't had that stomach issue. It's been over a year now. I haven't had it. So I'm fairly convinced that I was one of those people that had that as a result of
Cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Hyperemesis syndrome. I don't know how to say it.
Ask your doctor. If you smoke a lot of weed.
It's a lot of weed. So do you remember how much, like, can you describe to some extent, was it a lot or?
It was a lot. I mean, not so much by today's standards, but it was a consistent, I would smoke for sure every day and for long periods of the day. Basically, I would very rarely smoke in the early, like in the daytime. I was more of I would go to work, and then after work, I would just smoke nonstop until I went to sleep. So 4 or 5, 6, however many hours between the time I got off of work and I was able to pass out, I was just smoking steadily for several hours. So, I mean, if you want to put a quantity on it, it wasn't even that much. I think it's more about the long-term heavy use than like the actual amount you're smoking. I don't really know. But yeah, I couldn't quantify how much, because I would generally smoke over a quarter. See, I feel silly saying it because I know there's potheads out there who smoke way more than what I was smoking.
So to eat, I mean, everybody's system's probably different, and maybe yours is more sensitive, maybe.
Right. But I was easily smoking over a gram of pot every day, easily. I mean, I can make that guess. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but you're doing it every day for years and years, you're gonna end up not everybody. I had plenty of friends who smoked as much or more than I did and never had that stomach thing. So who knows what causes it? All I'm saying is, if you have if this sounds familiar to you, you smoke a lot of weed and you get this weird puking. I was just referred to it as like a stomach flu because I had no idea what else it was. Yeah. So if you have something similar, I don't know, look it up. Do some research. Ask your doctor about the weed. Yep. And puking, cannabinol, whatever it was.
Cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. So if it's you, if you have that problem, either try smoking a little bit less. Look it up online and see if a warm shower would help you. That's what I heard from, I think, the Joe Rogan show. They said take a warm shower.
When I first heard of it was shortly after. Well, not shortly, but within a few months of them legalizing it recreationally in California, then I guess people just went off the rails when it became like, we can smoke like maniacs. Yeah. And then, sometime after the legalization, they started getting more and more ER visits of people showing up and having this, and then they finally kind of pinned down what it was. Now, all my doctor visits was before that. So, I mean, I never went to a doctor after that and said, hey, is this what I got? Yeah. But what I can tell you is when I took a 6-month break, it stopped happening. And like I said, I smoke a lot less now than I did before. So that hasn't happened to me in over a year. And I'm happy about that. Yeah. Because that shit sucked. Mm-hmm. That was a negative consequence. If indeed it was linked to I'm not sure. I haven't had it diagnosed. But in my mind, I associate it now with my heavy pot use. Yeah. How do you measure how much is too much used for any particular job?
I think that goes kind of back to if you're able to handle it, then do it.
It depends on your job and your own personal
And judge
tolerance.
yourself. Judge yourself on how you execute certain things while under the influence. And
it's a thing. It's a thing that's so. I mean, the effects seem to vary so much with different people that it'd be a hard thing to pin down and say. It's just like we were talking about with DUI. It's kind of hard to say this much is okay and that much because it's different from person to person. So I don't really know how you could put a regulation on that. But certainly if you're the kind of pothead who spaces out and gets clumsy and knocks shit over, and you work in a job where you could physically harm yourself, like so anything with dangerous machinery, don't be careful. Just err on the side of caution. Just don't smoke before you go into work. If you got a job where you're sitting at a computer all day and don't really have to do anything physical.
Yeah, I remember that girl Maria that I mentioned, where she would dab before work, take an edible at break. I think take an edible at lunch at work. Her next break, take an edible. Come home. Before going into the house, her routine was to smoke in the or to dab in the driveway before she walks into her house, and then I believe once or twice more dab before she goes to bed. That Maria, you're freaking amazing. That seems pretty hardcore. Maybe I'm getting your side of this story incorrect. So if you want to come over here for an interview,
yeah. That guy was an idiot. Doesn't know what he's talking about. That may be the case. I'm just a dude.
So could it be a danger to the workplace? Like you said, it just depends on what you can handle. I think in her case, she was a happy person. I think she did fantastic. I mean, she was kind of like the most joyous person in that department. Like everybody liked talking to her. So that was a great turnout.
Yeah, how come you're so happy all the time? Because I smoke weed. Because I just took a huge dab before I came in here. Great. Woo!
What are the what are the healthy ways to take in marijuana?
I think this was Minh again.
Yeah, this was Minh. He's talking about the cilia hairs in the lungs. So, is that how you say it?
I think so, yeah.
Cilia hairs? Cilia.
I think it's cilia.
Cilia.
I don't know nothing about lungs. You too worried about your health, man. Just let it go, bro.
You could take it from, you hear about stoners that do joints all the time and they don't die from it. I would imagine there's probably some type of health benefit.
I don't know. Maybe
it's probably bad for you a little bit.
Emphysema or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, you see nicotine smokers smoking for 70 years of their life without getting cancer and without dying. I think marijuana is a lot lighter.
This would be a question for a doctor, not a pothead. I don't really know. As far as healthier ways to consume it, we were talking about bongs and water pipes if you like to smoke.
And maybe a vape.
Edibles.
Edible, maybe vape, because I wonder if the vape, it's doing the right temperature to cook up the
apparently with the vapes, there's nothing's actually burning. There's no real smoke. You're just kind of like vaporizing the THC. So I mean, I would think that's definitely healthier than smoking. But even people who smoke it all the time, you don't hear stories about this dude got lung cancer because all he smoked was marijuana and finally got that lung cancer. I don't know, maybe it happens, but it's not something, doesn't seem that prevalent, Because I mean, even before all of this legalization recently, people have been smoking pot, It's been a widely used thing. So you would think by now, if there were all these negative health effects, we would know that by now. You know what I mean? I would think. Unless it's an issue of people not wanting to admit to their pot use.
Yeah.
I wonder how long it took them to figure out that stomach thing was related to pot. Because a lot of people don't even want to tell their doctor that they smoke pot.
Oh, yeah.
The stigma. It's terrible. I mean, people shouldn't have to be in the closet about anything, really. But
agreed.
What we're talking about here, drug use. pot, particularly with these drugs. I mean, yeah, you don't want to tell people you're smoking crack or doing heroin, but you don't want to do that shit anyway, folks. Come on, stay away. Crack is whack.
Any thoughts on psychedelics that we haven't covered? It's interesting. Maybe we talked about it last time. Maybe we'll just talk about it again because last time we were under the influence. The near-death experience. I guess if your body is doing these psychedelics like ayahuasca, DMT, it's releasing all these chemicals in your body, is like if you're about to die.
Right.
So then you get this outer body experience that's really intriguing. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
My understanding is that we all have DMT produced in our brains. Terrence McKenna is a big people. He's been talking about psychedelics. He's passed on by now, but he used to say, if DMT is illegal, we're all holding. We all have DMT in us, so we're all technically breaking the law just by existing. Yeah, we're breaking that drug law on DMT because we've all got it in our brains. They think it's created in the pineal gland. Here's one thing. Just a quick tangent. I struggled last time with things I talked about because I'm self-conscious about. Well, I feel like I'm just repeating shit that I've heard. And if people hear me, they're going to be like, oh, he's just saying that shit that Terrence McKenna said. But I mean, this time I imagine most of the people watching this have little to no experience on DMT. So I'm trying to just let that go. But it occurred to me later that last time I was kind of dancing around things because I didn't want to just sound like I'm repeating shit that they've probably already heard. But back to what was I saying? DMT in the brain, pineal gland, and people theorize that like if you get in a bad car crash that almost kills you, or anything that's kind of traumatizes you where the body thinks it's about to die, then you're gonna have a dump of DMT into your brain, and then be feeling those effects. I don't know where the research, what research, you know what I mean? Again, we can't do studies because it's a fucking class 1 drug. Yeah. But so the idea is that maybe the near-death experience is so similar to the DMT experience, or oftentimes people on DMT will have a similar experience where they feel like they've died or they are about to die. So there's maybe an association there. It's all kind of hypothetical at this point, but maybe there's something there. I don't know.
You know, one thing that I took away from that last conversation that was important to me was I like the aspect of the ego killing part of psychedelics and the worldly love of all humans and all things that it brings. Mm-hmm. The one thing that scares me is the thought that it causes a lot of people to think that outer body experience is connected to aliens somehow. That's the only one thing that I took out of that conversation that made me feel that I don't like that. I think it's because I live my life trying to think of what I believe in scientists and what I'm able to grasp from them. And there's some of the stuff that's so tough to grasp, like when they talk about physics and all this higher math that led them to whether the Big Bang and stuff. But the one thing, how I would connect that is I work in IT, and when I talk about encryption or I talk about how to program something, I lose people, and they're like, they have no idea, and there's times where they maybe don't believe me. Like I had a manager like, well, is it really going to take that long to program that? And I'm like, dude, this is a tough thing to do. It's not easy. It doesn't just doesn't program it. yeah. So when I start talking about IT stuff, people don't understand it. So I could imagine a scientist who's doing physics or space travel or whatever that they work on. Yep. For them to come to the conclusion of the Big Bang, there's parts of it where I just have to do enough research for me for me, I do enough research just to believe them, because maybe certain research that I do, like when they start saying how big the universe is, so then I started doing research into telescopes and how much can I buy a telescope to see Alpha Centauri, or was it, I forget which galaxy it was. Alpha Centauri is the planet. Oh wait, Alpha. Gosh, I love this topic, and I'm surprised I'm screwing it all up. Alpha Centauri. There's Alpha. So, anyways, you could see
he didn't even smoke this time.
You could see one galaxy with a. You could buy, I think, about a $2,000 telescope. You could actually see the spiral arms of one galaxy, because everything is so far away that you can't see any other, unless you get you have to have like a multi-million-dollar telescope to see other galaxies. So we have one galaxy that's super close to our galaxy.
Right.
And if you have a big enough telescope, you could actually see the spiral arms. There's only one galaxy close enough. All the other galaxies are so far away. You need a multi-million-dollar telescope to see that. So to me, when I kind of did the math or the research in that, I'm like, okay, so I could see how scientists, they've done so much research, they've come up to the Big Bang. Whether that's right or wrong, for now, that's the research they've done. I think I believe it because of all the stuff that I've done to get, at least to understand what I understand.
Right.
So with psychedelics, when they say talking about aliens, if it's possible, I just say right now we don't have any evidence that would give us more than that theory, if that makes sense.
Well, we're thinking of, it seems to me like, I'm not sure I fully understand what you're saying, but it sounds to me like we're thinking of aliens in terms of physical distance and travel across space. In that sense, yeah, if the nearest, if the nearest inhabitable area of planets and shit is so fucking far away that it would take hundreds of years to get here, yeah, that makes sense that it seems unlikely. But I think when it comes to like DMT experiences and talking to aliens, there's so much we don't understand about the nature of reality. We could be talking interdimensional. Maybe they didn't come here from that galaxy. They came here from, they already right here. We just have to, I was thinking of it in terms of like, I know we mentioned last time that some people think of our consciousness as existing in our brains. And I'm starting to think of it more as like our brain is like a receiver and our consciousness comes from some external place. That would explain why if these like near-death experiences, when someone is technically dead on a hospital bed and there's literally zero brain activity happening, how did this person have consciousness during that period of time? How were they able to see what was going on in that hospital room and report back, oh yeah, I saw the nurse put this fucking thing over here? And it's like, well, you had zero, your brain was flatlined. There was literally no brain activity. How could you even have been dreaming or conscious in any way? So I'm starting to think that maybe consciousness doesn't just shut off when your body dies. Maybe our bodies, our brains are kind of like a radio or a TV picking up a signal.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, just because you smash your TV set, it doesn't mean the signal disappears. You just can't pick it up on that TV anymore.
Yeah.
The signal's still there.
Yeah.
So, maybe our signal of our consciousness, if you think about it in terms of like radio, or maybe just at a frequency, if you tweak the frequency with these psychedelics, then you can exist, your consciousness can exist on another plane of reality that's always there. We don't see it because our frequency is on this physical world that we're in right now.
Yeah.
That's how I've been thinking of it lately. So, I mean, that's kind of, I feel like what's happening when you take psychedelics, it tweaks your frequency and it puts your consciousness in another place.
Yeah.
Not necessarily rocketing across space as we know it, but maybe just stepping aside into what already exists, but like we don't, you know what I mean? I don't know. I would like to have more DMT experiences. The few I had were very mild, and I did not rocket through space and talk to I still haven't talked to the aliens. I'd like to. But also I think the other psychedelic, like LSD and mushrooms, I feel like they all kind of lead you to that place. Whether or not you get there depends on how much you take or what your mindset is or whatever. But it seems like from all of the reports that if you smoke DMT, it's like a direct, bam, you get there, like almost immediately. So
it's interesting when I think Sam Harris talks about. You sent that link. I think. Do you remember him saying, psychedelics, DMT are?
There's another one, Emmett. We can point to. Sam Harris is a proponent of psychedelic research and how it can be a useful tool for humanity. So I know Emmett respects Sam Harris quite a bit. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Sam Harris talks about DMT and or psychedelics being the fast track to if you did meditation and became a master at meditation, where you almost have outer body experiences just through meditating. He said the years of to get there, where DMT is like the 15-minute track to get there. That when he explains it like that, I'm like, holy shit, that kind of makes psychedelics almost enticing to try. I don't know what to make out of it, sort of, but it makes it interesting.
I'm not sure. I mean, he's a super smart guy. So he's definitely smarter than I am. And I don't know about meditation. I've never really been able to, not that I've tried real hard, but I have a pretty overactive mind. So the idea of like blocking out all thought, and it just seems impossible to me. Psychedelics.
Anything else on psychedelics?
It's a fascinating experience, even with our limited understanding of it. I mean, if you're curious and looking for that, maybe this goes back to what are the benefits of recreational use. It's just fascinating. It's incredible. I've never found a comparable activity or experience. You know what I mean? There's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it. You could say I went surfing. Yeah, it was kind of fun, like white rider rafting. You know what I mean? I mean, there's stuff you can compare things to. Or this was as fun as skydiving. I cannot come up with anything that's comparable to. It's so alien to us. If you want to get back to the idea of aliens, it's so different from what we already know and understand. That it's. Terence McKenna, again, he used to say the only thing to fear is death by astonishment. Because you're there and it's like, oh, holy shit, this is amazing. Yeah, thank you. So another thing he said that I thought, I personally, there's a recreational use with psychedelics. You don't want to get into real high doses. But I like to take high doses and go deep. And one of the things he said that I love is that he said if at some point during your trip you're not worried that you took too much, then that means you didn't take enough. And part of me, for what I like to do, I subscribe to that theory. I mean, there should be a point where you're like, oh my God, did I eat too much mushrooms? But I don't know, that's not for everyone. Some people get scared by that. I consider myself a amateur aspiring psychonaut. So I'm looking for that. That experience that shakes me. Most of mine, I'm able to stay pretty grounded, even when I take a huge dose. There was one time where I had convinced myself that I had figured out the key to happiness and all kinds. You know, you come up with some wild ideas when you're on mushrooms.
I do that on marijuana.
Right? But I had I never came up with something that was the key. I just kept telling myself, that's I figured it out. And there was no, and then I got into a mental loop where I just kept saying, I figured out the key to happiness. I am God, and I can do whatever I want. And this just kept repeating in my head. But I like I said, I've always been able to stay kind of grounded. Like, no matter how far out I go, I've got like one pinky toe still dipped in reality. So even in that state where I was just fucking gone and telling myself I'm God, then I would sat there and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm God, I should just be able to remove my finger. Ah, nope, sorry, that ain't the answer. I can't just pull my finger off. So I don't know. I'm not sure what my point was, but all right. I've done too many mushrooms. I don't know.
I'm gonna go into the some Viet final questions, and then if you want to jump back into anything that tangent thoughts with anything at all, even if it's related to cannabis or psychedelics, you can. If it's not related, you can still go in tangents. First question: what habits do you have that greatly impact your life?
Wait, I thought it was improve. I remember from last time.
Your memory is good. My writing is terrible.
I don't know. What habits do I have that make my life better, impact my life? I just try to, I don't know. It's really just about trying to keep a positive outlook on things and trying to stay in line with what I feel is, I almost said morality. I don't know if that's the right word, but
no, that is
just stay in line with what I think is right. And
yeah,
you know
morality.
What I mean?
Yep.
I try not to get involved in shit that doesn't seem right to me.
Yep.
Like they don't. Just like we were talking about the guys selling weed laced with, if that seems like I wouldn't want. It kind of goes back to like the golden rule, right? Treat people the way you want to be treated. If I think about a situation and I'm like, well, I wouldn't want that shit happening to me, then by that token, I don't want to be involved in that happening to someone else. I'm just distance myself from that shit. So it's weird. I remembered the question, but I never came up with an answer.
What do you find most interesting of Vietnamese culture?
I'm pretty sure I totally dodged this one last time because I didn't know. I'm half Vietnamese myself, so I should have an answer to this, but I honestly don't know much about, I think this is what I said last time, I don't know much about actual Vietnamese culture. I know a little bit about like Vietnamese American culture, but I know very little about what's going on over in Vietnam. What do I find fascinating about it? I don't know. Food, exotic food.
What's your favorite Vietnamese dish?
I like regular plain pho thai with no vegetables, no onions.
If you had to describe it to somebody that doesn't know what pho is, how would you describe it?
It's like a soup, noodle soup. With the one I like has like thinly sliced rare beef.
How would you
yummy? And of course, my version is what do we call it in English? Hoisin sauce. Mm-hmm. That for me is the main ingredient. I'll put in squeeze some lime in there, and then about half a bottle of hoisin sauce. The Vietnamese, it's called Thuong, right?
Yeah. How do you describe you said it's a soup. How would you describe the broth or the consistency or the flavor?
Before or after the hoisin sauce?
Before and after. Or before and after. Because you could describe the hoisin sauce too.
I don't know. I never eat it without the hoisin sauce. It's just kind of I just think of it as water. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever even tasted the broth before. I've always been about
describe. So it's
I make it sweet. When you dump the hoisin sauce in there, it gets real sweet.
Yeah, it's I would say the soup is a savory beef broth that's been cooking for 4 plus hours. So it's very beefy, and then you add that hoisin sauce, which is a sweet plum base. Almost has like a barbecue sauce flavor, but not quite.
Not like spicy.
Yeah.
It's just more sweet than anything else. That's what I like about it. Yeah. Now, some people will argue that I use too much Thuong.
Yeah.
But I've seen. I don't think so. I mean.
Just like drugs, whatever you could handle, put it in.
Well, here's the reality. Most of it stays in the bowl, unless you drink the broth down afterwards, which I almost never do. most of it's staying in there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it reaches a saturation point where only so much will mix into the broth. So I would think, again, I'm not a scientist.
What do you know or think of cryptocurrency?
Very little. I know I have cousins that are into it. That's about it. It's way over my head. I can barely handle regular currency. So when you get into technology and electronic shit, I'm lost.
What's the biggest problem you think nationally and or globally, and what should humans do to fix it?
Just greed, selfishness, a lack of compassion. That's one of the that was one of the things you asked me a couple times last time is why people seem to feel more loving and compassionate on these drugs. And I kind of feel like that's their purpose. That's their function. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's there for. Part of what it's there for. But I think particularly with psychedelics like mushrooms, I don't know anyone who's eaten mushrooms and just turned into an asshole. It just doesn't happen. It makes you nicer. It makes you more loving. It makes you care about your fellow man.
It's almost ironic to think that marijuana and I think most or all psychedelics make you more loving, and yet America, who's it's like if you do white collar crime, usually you could buy your way out of it, but as soon as you kill someone, then there's almost no way to turn back and you're going to go to jail. So violent crimes is so heavy in America, but yet
unless you're rich.
Yeah, that
powerful.
Too. Yeah, OJ.
If you got money and power, people get away with murder all the time.
But for psychedelics and marijuana that makes you love people, it's weird to make that illegal, make that Schedule 1.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing. Like you would think if you have that incorporated in your society, like people will love each other more.
It's so opposite. Like you're being punished for being good.
It's actually kind of weird where if I want to have a conspiracy theory on if there's big corporations wanting to control people, wouldn't psychedelics and marijuana be a good way to control people? Like, hey, have these drugs, just love each other and take care of each other while I take your tax money.
Well, they tried that with the with LSD, with like the MK Ultra experiments. That's what that shit was all about. They were trying to learn about LSD. Can we use this compound as a mind control?
Oh, when I heard mind control, I thought of it as like they wanted. Oh, I didn't think about it.
Yeah,
like
they
that.
was looking to make like Manchurian Candidate shit. Like, can we give this guy LSD and get him to go assassinate this fucking? That's my understanding of it.
Yes.
So, I mean, they looked into that and it didn't go the way they wanted. So,
yeah.
I think because what happened when you find out is when you take these things is you start questioning your government and the system and the way things are set up. And they don't want that. They don't want you thinking about how fucked up things are. They want you to get in line, follow the rules, do what they say. They don't want people thinking about stuff like this because the more you think about it, the more you see how fucked up it is. And then if enough people take mushrooms and decide that this is fucked up and we're not going to stand for it, maybe then you'll see some psychedelic potheads turn violent. And that's what they're afraid of. That's what I think. I can't see any other reason why you would want to suppress it, particularly with the psychedelics, because it's not like Big Pharma is trying to. Well, maybe for the treatment, the addiction treatment, but it seems more like with the psychedelics, you would have the government. And I think we talked about religion last time, where there's another conspiracy theory that like a lot of people think. When you take these psychedelics, you're connecting with God, whatever God is, our creator or the greater consciousness out there. It's a way to connect with God. And the church, they don't want you doing that. You want to connect to God, you come in to our big beautiful building on Sunday, give us 10% of your paycheck. Sing these songs with us, and that's how you talk to God. They don't want you cutting out the middleman.
I theorize. Well, it was on. I want to say it was that documentary. What was the name of it? the union, they mentioned that it was around the 60s or 70s, I might be wrong on the dates, where presidents and senators were, when they were campaigning to become an elected official, they found that if they would campaign against drugs, they seemed to get more votes for whatever reason.
Right.
Whatever polarizing reason that humans seem to want to be for or against drugs, it was all about money and power, and they found that drugs were the perfect conversation for them to put on people to vote for them. I
think because people have been conditioned to believe that drugs are bad.
Yeah.
Associated. It's got a negative connotation now.
Yeah.
Even though if you take an oxy that your doctor wrote a script and said, here, take this.
Yeah.
They don't consider that a drug. That's medicine.
Yeah.
But that's a more hardcore drug.
Yeah. Hands down. Fuck Oxy.
You know what I mean? So
fuck the doctors or whatever the system or the government that fucking did that to me. Fuck you.
So, yeah, I mean, drug is a weird word because people take drugs all day, every day. And you just don't consider sugar, caffeine, nicotine.
Or even Tylenol.
Nobody thinks of cigarettes as a drug, but it is. It's a hardcore drug.
Yeah.
So it's all about language and I think that's why when you were talking about campaigning against drugs are bad, drugs are bad, and people without even questioning it, oh yeah, I don't like drugs, nor do you don't want the stigma of standing up and saying, well, this one's not that bad. Then you're a fucking drug user, you a druggie, get out of here, fucking. So it's a mass consciousness we need to change, and I think that's why cannabis is being widely legalized, that people are waking up and realizing, okay, it's not the fucking evil drug that they told us it was.
Yeah.
And it's got to change. And hopefully people are waking up to that fact with psychedelics too. I mean, there are certain things you could say. I mean, we're not going to have a conversation like this where we're saying, go ahead and try heroin if you're curious or bored. I think we can all agree things like heroin.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
Don't get involved in that shit. Don't take meth. I've known people who used meth. Bad news, friends.
Stay away
from meth.
Stay away from heroin, meth, Oxycontin.
Crack. Stay away from crack. Crack is whack. But again, in a lot of cases, these are things people have to discover for themselves, you know. I've never tried heroin or crack or anything like that, so I can't tell you it's all bad, but it seems fairly evident from what we do know about those drugs that's the weird thing. It's like with things like that, it seems so obvious, but there's nothing like that with pot or mushrooms, where it's like, oh yeah, well, it's just known that mushrooms will fuck you up and have you laying there. What? That never happens. When does that happen? So I think it's just something, again, people didn't think about it. The government told us it was bad, and we said, okay, that shit's bad. Yeah. And we'll stay away from that.
Yeah. I'm going to jump back into cryptocurrency topic because I like cryptocurrency.
Word.
Have you heard?
I'll tell you what I do know about cryptocurrency is that when it first started hitting the scene, people were using it to buy illegal drugs online.
I was just going to ask about that.
There was a site called like the Silk Road or something.
Yep.
And I know there was a lot of illicit transactions happening with illegal materials. And
as far as I just watched a short talk, man, I forget her name, but she's high up there. I think she was the. Fuck.
You had me at she's high.
I want to say she's like pretty high up there at Coinbase, a cryptocurrency exchange. She used to work in the federal government, and then she went out to the private sector. But she talks about when she worked federally, they would crack down on drug dealers and whatnot. And she said the numbers that they saw in cryptocurrency, it was very small. There was still more drugs being done by printed dollar.
Right, it's cash.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate that cryptocurrency has that stigma, right. Just like stigma with drugs.
Well, I never thought of it as a bad thing. In fact, I was happy about it. Oh, there's a way you can get DMT now?
Yeah.
Not that I was able to get into that, but...
Yeah, I think cryptocurrency is like, when we think about the internet back in the 90s, when people didn't know what the internet was, and now internet nowadays, we have Uber Eats. Who would have thought back in the 90s you could have a decentralized car company that drives you somewhere, or drives to a food place, picks up the food, delivers it to your door, any food item,
Right.
and that is through the internet. That's, I think cryptocurrency right now is sort of like in the 90s. People don't understand it. It is ugly. Back in the 90s when websites were ugly, have you ever tried to find have you ever seen an old website nowadays, like how ugly they
Not
were?
really, but I remember. I know what you're talking about.
So that's how cryptocurrency is nowadays too. Even like certain cryptocurrency wallets, how to use it, and your private key in there. It's really complicated. It's really ugly. It's complicated. It's not easy. That's how the 90s was for the internet, and that's what cryptocurrency is today. It's the thing that cryptocurrency that I think very little people understand is the globalness of it and the decentralized nature of cryptocurrency. And I think it's gonna change the world. Like if this is the Earth and you have a mining computer doing cryptocurrency here, and this one here, you'd have to EMP bomb the entire world to shut off cryptocurrency. Right. That's very unlikely. I don't know if they have a large enough EMP bomb, but maybe they blast out 20 million EMP bombs to hit every city. Right. But if heck, you could have someone bought some rich dude from cryptocurrency. He bought a massive mountain that was I think back in the Cold War days, they built a military bunker inside that mountain. Yeah. So he actually bought it with all his rich cryptocurrency money, and he's storing cryptocurrency servers in that. So it's going to be very tough to kill.
Well, even is an EMP bomb, that would only be temporary, right? Could you get back up and running?
I think it also, I might be wrong, but I thought that would also erase, like that would destroy your hard drives, I think.
Data and shit. I'm very not savvy myself. So.
I don't know enough about EMPs on that. But with a system like that's decentralized, where nobody relies on anybody and everyone is able to mathematically trust each other if you send the right signature for those transactions. Right. The thing that many people don't understand is this could be fundamentally changing how truth is reported. Meaning, if right now, I don't know a good example. I'll probably screw this up. Say a judge puts me on trial for killing you.
Oh man, come on.
If I kill you, they'd have to get evidence. They could take me to court. Did I kill you with a gun, with a cup, with what? Maybe I didn't kill you, and maybe I got framed. Who knows? Right. The judge puts out the final. The jury selects if I was guilty or not, and the judge says, "Okay, the jury has selected you as guilty." At that point, newspapers start saying their side of the story, and people start saying, "Oh, Liem didn't do it, but I've been sentenced." Now, with cryptocurrency and blockchain, it doesn't fix the underlying problem with humans. If we're bad humans, that's always it doesn't make us better. Right. What that does do is, as soon as the judge signs a signature, signs the appropriate documents, that maybe they have a blockchain for this, and as soon as the judge says I'm guilty, it blasts all through the internet, and nobody can hack that and say, no, the judge didn't say that, or a newspaper can't say, no, the judge didn't say that. Okay. So I think that's
it curbs misinformation, is that what you're saying?
It curbs just truth. And that's such a powerful thing, that's such a fundamental thing that we never think about, where I think that's
what if they got the verdict wrong? Well, now it's said that you're guilty.
That's where I said, if humans are wrong,
right?
Cryptocurrency is just a tool. It doesn't fix how bad humans are, and that's where I think people are missing that. A lot of people right now with cryptocurrency are saying, "Well, how's cryptocurrency gonna fix things?" I'm like, no, cryptocurrency isn't there to fix things. It's a tool to make you do things better. Right. It's up to you as humans to use it in the right way.
Yeah, that reminds me of Emmett's question about why should we how is psychedelics going to help you, and why should people do it? It's not going to solve everything. You can use it as a tool to help with stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a great tool for introspection, self-analysis. What am I doing wrong? What it does, I didn't mean to jump from
no, that's fine. That's fine.
From crypto to back to psychedelics, but what it helps you do is get another perspective on things. You kind of step outside yourself and look at your circumstances from another point of view. You know what I mean? Not because we're all kind of trapped in our own thought patterns, and we're set in our ways. You know what I mean? So even if right now I'm thinking about my life, I'm already set in a pattern of thought. But if I were to eat a bunch of mushrooms and then think about an issue I have, then it just gives me a fresh perspective on it. Like, oh, I was fucking thinking about that all wrong. This is what I should be doing. But personally, where I get hung up is then you have to take action and use what you learn from that experience. And that's kind of where I stumble. I'll get some answers on what I should do and then not do it. That's my own. I don't know how to overcome that. I haven't been able to get past that yet. But
I feel like cryptocurrency is a tool, psychedelics is a tool, cannabis is a tool, and it's just up to you to choose how to use it. And it's unfortunate that actually all three the government is down on. The government's not helping make it easy to use them or research them or incorporate into a healthy way of life.
Well, yeah, it seems it's weird, there's always resistance to progress and even just change. If we don't know whether it's going to be good or bad, then fuck that. I'll just keep it going the way that at least we know things are. It's like the establishment, right? The establishment doesn't want to be shaken up in any way. They like things the way they are. They're cool with how it is. So they don't like any of these tools that might make you think about things differently, or a crypto that'll. I don't really know enough about crypto to cite an example here, but yeah, there's always resistance to progress. It's fucking weird. We don't want to do better. We like the way things are now.
Yeah.
Do we? Why? Why would you like those? Things are better than they used to be in many regards, but why stop? Why stop progress? We should keep trying to get better. So, as a society, as a country, I don't want anyone to think I've had an anti-American. I love my country. I think I saw something on Facebook the other day said, I love my country, but I'm ashamed of my government. And that's really how I feel. I wish we could find a better way to run things.
I agree. Let's end on that sad note.
Oh, not sadness. We're striving. We're striving to improve.
No, I do dislike where it seems that America is going politically or by government. Things seem to be getting worse. Now, that's not to say things, when you're saying, that doesn't mean that you're against America or down on America. This is a great country. We have freedom of speech. This time in our life is so good to some degree. If you think about like the time of Hitler, we could have been born, we could have somehow been born in the time of concentration camps. We could have been born in North Korea. We could have been born maybe in China.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if we were in China, we would not be allowed to be having this conversation.
Yeah. So things are great, but I do fear where it looks like things are going with America. And hopefully talking about these things, I hope we open up thought and
there is hope. Hopefully things are, well, like I said, even just on the topic of weed and psychedelics, things seem to be moving in the right direction or a good direction. Yeah. In my opinion. Maybe people disagree. Keep them evil drugs illegal. We don't need that shit. The weird thing about prohibition is like, if you're not into that and you don't want to do that, you can already not do that. You don't have to stop other people from doing it. You can just not take mushrooms. It's all good, bro.
So if it doesn't harm others, go ahead and do it.
Well, that reminds me of the question about weed regulation in California. I remember I was saying it makes sense when they were talking about the medical use. But there was a lot of people who were kind of like, well, we should do away with that medical marijuana because the system's being exploited and people are abusing. You know what I mean? Like I said, people would go in and say, I get headaches, and they get their weed card. But you don't punish the people who are doing it the right way, or the people who actually it helps.
Yeah.
Because some assholes are going around the system and doing it the wrong way. You regulate that better. Go after the people who are abusing the system. Don't punish the people who aren't doing anything wrong. That's fucked up. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Yep. I want to rephrase where I said, if it doesn't harm people and it doesn't harm yourself, then you should be all about it.
Right.
If it doesn't harm others and it happens to harm yourself, to some extent, as long as the future of you harming yourself doesn't start to harm others eventually, then go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's a weird topic. Like, where do you draw the line? And who's to decide? Do we have like a morality police who can decide how much you're hurting yourself? This is no, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a big topic to some degree. I think about the statement, the letter of the law or the spirit of the law.
Yep.
I think we have a lot of laws that meant to do good, but it's been swayed by lawyers or changed by politicians, and now it's the letter of the law, but people do a lot of bad things around it, even though following the law, it's terrible. That's a bigger conversation.
What I hate is we have so many laws that are just blatant money grabs. It's like, what?
For the rich people.
Yeah, this is illegal. You broke this rule, so now you owe me $400. What? There's got to be a better way to punish me than to charge me money. Like, and I don't know. Yeah, we're kind of going off topic there. It just reminded me of, there's a degree of personal freedom you have to allow people, even for self-harm. You know what I mean? It's like, what? Who? At what point do you step in and say, okay, what you're doing is not good for you, so I'm gonna take, you know what I mean, impose what I think on what you're doing. It's a touchy subject. Who's to decide? Who's to say?
Yeah. All right, let's end on that.
All right.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
There's hope.